All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to HPMOR. Or, no, fuck.
You're so bad. You're so bad at this.
Well, welcome to HBA Hellish Brain Activity, episodes 8. 8. Episode 8. I should really, keep track of this better. Uh, Today we are talking about um, HPMOR chapters 7 through 12. We were recording this immediately after recording a quite short segment on crosscode, but because of that, there is a chance that Fiora might get a little too sleepy as her time zone is extremely different from ours. So she might not be here the whole time, but we're glad that she's here for the time that she is. Um, yeah, I should have said this first. I am your host, Emilio. These are your co-hosts, Erin, Fiora, and Robert. Say hi.
Say hi.
I'm okay.
Robert, did you just say what?
What?
Like very faintly. Shut up.
How?
You guys are
All right.
awful.
Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Next week we'll be doing.
Quick, cut to some Kevin McLeod music.
Oh, should we? No, I'm not gonna ask that question right now. Anyway, um, so yeah, last time we talked about HPMOR, we had just been introduced to the characters of Harry Potter and Minerva McGonagall. We kind of get a soft introduction to Draco Malfoy in this story, but we don't really learn much about him. We just sort of interact with him. Um, yeah, we learn that Harry is a massive fucking nerd, almost definitely neurodivergent, and also is prophesized to kill Voldemort. So yeah, like pretty standard Harry Potter stuff, really.
Sorry.
And this segment, we get a more proper introduction to the character of Draco Malfoy. We get to meet Hermione, who is a very beloved character, both personally for me and in the wider HPMOR fandom. And we see Harry get sorted, and yeah, that's the basic sum of what happens in this segment. So to start off, any initial thoughts on this segment?
Shit's long.
Community is broken.
Um.
I heard comedy is broken, shit's long.
Can I say cum to tea?
No,
No.
you cannot. We will unfortunately get banned off of YouTube for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to
Um,
say it once. I just had to get it out of my system.
you got
But
it.
yeah, comedy is just like ridiculously broken, physics-defying bullshit. But it's also like history editing, and if for somebody like Harry, of course, that's just going to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
It,
Comedy. We're gonna talk a lot about comedy later, trust me.
that's like the
Um,
big mystery you're talking about, right?
yes, it was. Before we recorded this episode, we were in call, and I hinted that we get our first, what I consider to be our first proper mystery in regards to a magical item and how it functions. Aaron did note that we do kind of get sort of that with the bag in the first 6 chapters, but the reason
Mm-hmm.
that I don't really count that is because, I guess slight spoilers for the rest of the story, that's not exactly one that we're supposed to like be able to solve. And um luckily in these 6 chapters we actually do get every piece of information that we need to solve how Comity works.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Harry is correct about it, maybe not, but that is the big mystery of this segment specifically and the one that I'm looking forward to talking about the most. Robert, was the length like a problem?
Um,
I'm sorry, it's just the wording.
Okay.
um, it was long.
Okay, but is that was that an issue? We can always go back to 20k words per segment.
Um, yeah, so it was definitely difficult to get through everything.
All right. Okay, noted. So would you want to go back to 20k or do you think like 25k is manageable? Because we're doing the next segment was going to be 35k because the last chapter in the segment was like really, really long. But if I remove that last chapter, it's only like 21k.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
I guess we'll do that. All right. So let's get into chapter 7. Chapter 7 is our proper introduction to Draco Malfoy. What are your initial thoughts on Malfoy?
Uh, definitely he's a lot more likable in compared to how he is in like the main novels. I definitely appreciate how his political position is emphasized in this book.
Hmm.
So in some way, it almost feels like Harry wants to be friends with Draco Malfoy, almost sort of like strategic position rather than to actually be friends with him. But
Hmm.
Yeah,
because of the experiences he goes through, he does end up having a sort of close bond with him,
hmm
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
I do really appreciate that. It's this different side of Draco.
hmm
I I especially enjoy the segment where he was talking about books that he'd read about manipulation,
yeah.
Hmm.
and it's still sort of fun to see the more nerdy side of Draco as opposed to his usual appearance, which is just, oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm the single most shit-faced character in this novel. Please punch me.
Yeah. Yeah, he is really only that until like book 5.
Okay, so wait, that the way you said it just made it sound like I'm like always drunk. Please punish me.
What?
Because
But
Oh
like
yeah,
yeah,
also
because he's
punish me in
shit-faced.
like a masochist kind of
that does
context.
mean drunk. I mean somebody who has like the most punchable face ever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Especially because I played like the PS1 version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as a kid.
Of course
I
you
am
have.
reminded that scrunched up, pixely face.
I think I know what
That's
you're
actually
talking about.
that's actually hilarious. I've never played like a single Harry Potter adjacent video game.
It's honestly not too bad. It's kind of like I would explain it as like a almost like a kid's Zelda clone. The biggest issue with it is probably its controls because it's like it's a PS1 game where people hadn't really gotten the hang of 3D yet, and
Hmm.
it was also around when Tomb Raider was big, so everybody was like, "Oh yeah, tank controls are fantastic." No, they're not. Tank controls are terrible.
Right.
Wait, this was also around. This was the game where Draco was talking about, like, was saying shit like, "Nice blender, Potter. Did your parents pick it out for you?"
I think
What?
so.
Like he
I
talked like
think his
that.
language is pretty much like this.
I'm sure that sounded ridiculous, but like that was also the point.
Yeah. All
You know,
right.
I'm just saying shit.
Erin, what was your impression of Draco from this chapter? Because you specifically said like you were hoping that he's not just a joke as he is in canon from the last segment.
Well, he isn't a joke, and I have to respect that. I mean, the thing in like chapter 7 that you said you like didn't like, I saw it and I was like, oh, that's fucking horrible.
Hmm.
Yeah, and but like besides that, I mean, I do respect that. Like you guys were talking about Draco's politics being more emphasized. Yeah, and he isn't just like a guy who's just mean because he's just mean. Like he
Hmm.
actually has like a coherent worldview that's like, in order to get ahead, you gotta be like this, and that, and uh you gotta like make sure the West does not fall.
Right, right.
Wow, crazy.
Like basically, but like that this makes him make a lot more sense as a coherent character that can be used in various ways. But also,
Hmm.
like, the important thing is that he's just young. He doesn't really know what's going on. He hasn't really gotten out much, and that'll change when he goes to Hogwarts, which will happen.
Right. Yeah. Right. Robert, any particular thoughts on Draco?
Um, um, I didn't think about it that much. Besides the fact that uh, saying he wants to R-word someone when they come of age is kind of crazy, and I don't think that happened in the actual book. But I could see him. I can definitely see him saying. I could maybe. I don't know. I haven't like. I don't remember anything from the movies, and I haven't read the books, so I have no reference to go off of.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Except this guy is fucking crazy.
Right, yeah. That's fine actually. I think that makes you like I think it's good that you haven't because the rest of us do have like the context of canon and stuff, and so now you get to like kind of react from the perspective of solely the book itself.
Mhm.
That's so that'll be kind of interesting. And yeah, you're right. That was the line specifically that that I like put a trigger warning for because like reading it the first time was extremely jarring,
Mhm.
especially because of the tone of the rest of the book up until that point. And it's actually so jarring that for a lot of readers, that's like a point where they just kind of stop reading. Um and I do think that's a little bit of a mistake, because it's kind of obvious from, at least to me, that the story is like, yes, that is supposed to be super jarring,
Mhm.
based on the way that Harry reacts to it, which we'll get into later. But yeah, like the reaction to that specific line is extremely justified, I
Yeah,
think.
but that's the thing. I've only just remembered that that line was not cool.
Right, right, yeah. Okay, so getting into more of the details of chapter 7, we um we open up with Harry and his mom and dad, at King's Cross, trying to find platform 9 3/4, and Harry and his dad are like, or no, Harry goes into talking about how when his dad found out about like his magic trunk that can carry a library, he was like, okay, well then we're gonna go get you a fucking library.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really sweet. I think it was a good
Yeah.
way for the author to show us that, like, you know, despite the professor's flaws, he's still a caring dad. Like, he still wants to do shit for his son and, like, set him up the best he can.
If you want to set
So
him
that was
up,
cool.
if you want to set him up the best he can, he should have shoved him into a locker and called him a nerd.
No, you should
Okay.
have just clicked nasty flop.
What?
I'm so sorry. I'm going to.
Shut up.
Came through unexpectedly clearly there,
That's
Robert.
that's so dumb.
Like that was
That's
the
so
clearest
silly.
line ever spoken in this pod.
Right. Okay. But then yeah, so then after that, they're trying to find where the platform is, and Harry's just like, I don't see a 9 3/4. I see a 9 and I see a 10. And then they have a funny interaction where his dad starts trying to like figure out what he could do, and Harry's like, dude, I want to figure it out myself. Stop that. I thought it was another thing that like shows off their dynamic in a kind of funny way.
Yeah. I have to admit I kind of enjoy how Harry's how yeah how Harry tends to like want to figure everything out on his own. He just doesn't want. He almost wants to find hints just lying about as opposed to something that's just like not even methodic. Because sometimes his dad comes across that way. Even though he's a professor, a lot of the things that you tend to learn in a profession just tend to be things that are treated as intuition
Hmm.
when they're really
Hmm.
not, and they're just memory.
Yeah. And
And
then
Harry basically wants to work from the ground up on this, as opposed to taking information from elsewhere and just using that as potentially a base because it might just make things worse.
yeah, yeah. And then after this, uh, or in response to that, Harry's dad is like, did the professor that you went with not tell you how to find it before you left?" And Harry's like, maybe she was distracted. And then both of her parents immediately assumed that he did some shit that would make her quote unquote distracted, which I think is a very, very funny assumption for them to make, especially considering that they're completely right that
Hmm.
like he did a lot of stuff. I mean, the key thing that probably resulted in an overall distraction was probably figuring out the prophecy, but like he did a lot of shit. There was the thing with Draco, there was the wand, there was what else was there? There was the money thing. Like she was extremely distracted, so it was understandable that she forgot to tell him how to get to the platform.
Hmm.
And then he brings up like when they ask how bad it is, Harry brings up that it was only half as bad as the science project incident. So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you guys think the science project incident was? And keep in mind that Harry is capable of accidental magic and has bitten a teacher.
Hmm.
And
Heaven's
apparently
Gateway
the science
incident.
project, what?
Heaven's Gateway incident.
Dude, I don't know if anyone's gonna get
Real.
that.
No, I know what it
Okay,
is.
so this is probably incorrect, but it's actually just as dangerous. Harry manages to synthesize an organometallic compound known as methylmercury.
Oh, that shit
Okay,
again.
what? What is
I am
that?
sorry, I post about dimethylmercury a lot.
What is that?
Extremely toxic, basically a heavy metal that seeps into the blood. It basically is a organic being killer. It is one of the most deadly neurotoxins in the world. It is incredibly easy to absorb through the skin. It is basically impossible to detect before it actually gets into the body.
What's it
Oh,
called again?
okay.
Dimethylmercury.
Oh,
And sometimes it can even just kill you through the vapor pressure alone. In addition, it's also very easy to obscure the fact that if you would poison someone with dimethylmercury, it like nobody will ever know, because not only does it look literally like water, but the effects of mercury poisoning will only be present about a few months in.
Huh.
So yeah,
I think
very
it's
very bad chemical. Very
wow.
understanding why a lot of chemists think it is basically the devil.
Good to
I
know.
think it is really I think it is really worrying that you think accidentally synthesizing that is only half as bad as what happened between Harry and McGonagall.
Right.
Because that's the scale he uses. He says it's about half as bad as that.
Hmm. There's a reason why I said it was quite unlikely.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe then the only other thing I can think of is potentially burning down the lab.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I think I'm not sure if this is something we actually learn about in the story, so I think we only get like word of God about it, but so I might reveal it after I have you guys guess, but I'm not sure. Erin, you want to give a guess?
Or in regards to the mystery.
The science project incident.
Oh, Kiefer Gore.
Okay. Robert,
What?
do you want to give a
Oh.
guess as to what the science project incident
I
was?
already said what it was.
What?
Heaven's Gateway incident.
Okay, dude. Um,
Wow, I'm the only person with reasonable expectation here.
yeah, apparently. So yeah, I guess I'll say this because I'm actually not sure if it's like canon or if it was just word of God, but I think if it was word of God, then what Yudkowsky said is that he tried making like a model volcano and didn't understand that a model volcano would not have magma in it. So he makes
Right.
one,
And
sets the school on fire, uh, but everyone makes it out safely, presumably due to accidental magic. So yeah, I think that's what the science project incident is supposed to be. There's honestly a pretty solid chance that that might have been fan fiction of this fan fiction, that that's what it was. But
I
yeah,
think that's pretty believable. Like, I wouldn't expect the magma to be sourced by magic, but I would expect it to sort of be like, it'd definitely be something that Harry would perhaps bring like a hydrogen blowtorch for.
right.
Right.
It's like something that's like completely unauthorized by the school, and it's just sort of like, why the hell are you using this for your science project? And Harry's just
Right,
like,
yeah.
I wanted to make real magma. And how can you make a model volcano if it's not got the actual material in it?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Especially because it's like, if he would probably get upset at a teacher for expecting him to understand that it's supposed to not be real magma. Because
Mhm.
to me, it has like the same vibe as getting mad at a teacher for not knowing what a logarithm is.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like this the fact that he's gone and put the fact that he went and put real magma in the model volcano does sound very canon to me. So like, fanfic or not, I think I am going to accept this as canon.
Yeah. And
It is otherwise
then
unspecified.
yeah, because like I said, I'm pretty sure it's not something that we actually get like directly answered in the book itself. So that's why I brought it up. Um, and then yeah, so like after this, he kind of just runs away from the ensuing conversation. He gets to the Weasleys, figures out how to get to the platform, and then he's like, "So either I just teleported somewhere else entirely, they can fold space like nobody's business, or they're simply ignoring all the rules." And I think, if I remember right, canon is actually completely unclear on which of those it is. Like, I don't think we ever get any hint as to whether it's like folded space within King's Cross or whether it's a different train station altogether or what.
For the record, I think for the record, my headcanon on this is that like the magic universe is just on like an entirely different field. It means that the two universes are directly the same, but the magical field is just not present in the real world. So like physics act entirely differently under this field. So the laws are technically being ignored, but they are technically also not being ignored because there are entirely new laws set for that universe, and therefore Harry's perception of science is incorrect.
Are you saying like there is a universe of magic layered on top of the normal Harry Potter universe, or that the universe of magic, being Harry Potter's universe, does not have laws identical to ours?
There's a universe of magic layered on top. So basically, it's like
Oh, okay.
all of this magic is technically real. It just isn't present in what is effectively the Muggle world.
I see. I see. That is an interesting headcanon. I've never heard that one before. I think my headcanon for King's Cross was just that it's like folded up space. Because I feel like we see that a lot in canon, so it's like probably the solution that wizards are partial to.
Hmm.
Like the
Yeah,
trunk, the moleskin pouch, the tents in the fourth book, where they're just way bigger on the inside.
Hmm.
It's like they seem to very much like folding up space and such. So that was always my headcanon.
yeah. I just prefer inventing new fields for headcanons. It's kind of because you know how things just like feel entirely different in 4D as opposed to 3D. It's
Yeah.
sort of like that. Like the magical field is like an entirely different dimension, but it's layered on top of the original dimension.
I see. That's cool.
This is also why it's just
Um,
not perceptible to average models.
oh, that's actually a really good connection. And then so yeah, after he goes in, he notes that apparently for magical purposes, his luggage had also managed to believe with sufficient strength to pass through the barrier, which was
Hmm.
a little disturbing when he started thinking about it.
Panpsychism, let's go.
What?
Sorry, that's the idea that basically every elemental particle has like its own emotions. It's kind of silly.
I see.
Right.
And then, we see Harry meet Ron and he's talking to him and he does not think very highly of Ron. How did you guys feel about Ron? Ron's portrayal?
I I have to admit, I it fits better with Harry's personality in this one because the Harry in this story, of course, is very different from Harry in canon. But like, Harry will just see like Harry will just see some sort of like average enthusiastic kid as somewhat superstitious as well as somebody
Hmm.
who's just sort of like a waste of time, and it definitely makes a lot of sense as to why he just see like Ron is kind of silly. I don't understand why I have to be with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Erin?
Yeah, I mean, like Harry describes Ron as like he just kind of exists. He just doesn't have much of a reason to be there, which I think is just HPMOR taking another jab at the original series.
I never saw it that way.
To be
Um,
clear, I think Ron does a lot of does quite a fair, quite a lot in the original series. It's just here
There,
is like
yeah,
this character has no room to develop.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
I
Like,
I,
there doesn't seem to be much of a niche for him besides being a regular person to which Harry and his rationalist friends are contrasted.
I never saw it as like a jab at canon, but now that you brought up the idea, I'm thinking that it might just be like another like meta thing where the author is basically telling us that in this story, Ron doesn't have a reason to exist. Like, because something that's kind of common with fan fiction is that no matter how much like a protagonist will change in an AU, there are certain like tenets that tend to be the same. So like a lot of AU Harry Potter fics would still keep like Ron and Hermione as his main trio of friends, um, even if it might not make much sense.
Hmm.
And so I think that the author is trying to be like, well, with this changed Harry, um, what does a character like Ron have to offer him? And the answer is, at least to Harry and probably to the author as well, nothing.
Yeah.
Comedic relief.
Comedic relief. I think Harry is our comedic relief.
That's true.
Like there are a lot of characters that can be, but for the most part, Harry himself is. Yeah, I do think Harry is like a little mean to Ron. Um, I don't
Yeah.
really feel like it's a big deal, but like he is, I think. And then yeah, they're talking, and Harry learns about Quidditch, and he's just like, this is the stupidest fucking sport ever.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments that's like very typical in Harry Potter fics, especially now. But
Hmm.
like he's still right. He's still right. And I really love that he's like, who designed this game? Some king who wanted his idiot son to have the special snowflake star role. And then he's like, actually that would make a lot of sense. He doesn't have to do all that much, but he gets told that he's the most important guy. Yeah. And then he references like that one guy who hated the church so much that he wrote up like 95 issues that he
Oh
had
yeah,
with the
Ron
church.
Luther.
Yeah, he references that and was like, I could do that, but for Quidditch, it wouldn't be that hard. Let me see what happens. And then yeah, eventually Draco shows up again, and Ron is like, dude, this guy's a dick, and you shouldn't be friends with him. And Harry's just like, I can handle myself, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. And Ron's just like, well, I won't be friends with someone who's friends with this guy or okay talking with this guy. And Harry's just like, okay. And then Ron leaves.
Okay.
I mean, Ron is upset about it, but it's like, what is he gonna do? Are you? Be like, no, you should be my friend. Yeah, and then
Somehow the way you said that is just like perfectly encapsulating of how Ron would react, and
thank you. I
Harry
will
is
take
just
it as a
having none of it
compliment.
in this arc.
Yeah. And then we get a nice moment that's like hinting at Draco actually being pretty smart in his own right. He says that when he like mocks Harry for his like made up pseudonym Mr. Bronze, and he's like, I have met you before. I saw someone going around with a scarf wrapped around his head looking ridiculous, so I took a guess at
Hmm.
who it was. And I like that. I like that it's a nice way to show us that like, Draco is not the idiot he was in canon.
Well,
Because
Yeah.
that
Draco in this canon is more so like, I guess I would best describe him as the rich kid, because not only does he have not only does he seem to have quite a bit of tutoring, he also seems to have fairly conservative opinions and definitely an agenda that's been passed on with his family.
Hmm.
It's sort of
yeah,
indicative of a very much a power hungry family.
Hmm.
right. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about like this little moment here is that uh it shows us something that I think that I would praise the author for, in that just because Harry is supposed to be very smart doesn't mean that every other character is an idiot. Because it's another like fan fiction thing where it's very common for, in order for an author to portray a character as smart, they kind of dumb down every other character, whether it be
Yeah.
intentionally or not.
Yeah. I feel like
And
this happens like a lot, especially in the canon series, um, where like Harry just has all these like brilliant, cool ideas, and everyone else around him is just made to look stupid, Uh, or like also in the case of Draco, make like stupid mistakes that allow Harry to outwit him.
yeah, and like we don't get to see that here.
Hmm.
We see like, yes, Harry is leveled up, and not everyone is as leveled up as he is, but they are still like more than they were in canon.
Actually, I would argue that especially later on, I would actually argue these characters are even more leveled up than Harry is. Like Hermione in
Really?
particular is a very notable rival to Harry in this book, and it almost feels like even more so than in canon, because she
Well, then,
especially challenges him in terms of wits.
well, I would like counter that by asking, is she leveled up more, or is it that she was already like supposed to be very smart in canon as well? I think you could argue that she like is leveled up more relative to someone like Draco, but then I think another thing you could say is that like, well, we are not shown what Hermione should be in canon because she is dumbed down for the sake of making Harry like look better, you know? Like
Yeah,
we're
and
told
that's
that
sort of
she's
why
like
I
this
think
super smart person.
Hermione is almost more leveled up in this regard because she is effectively freed from the shackles of being dumbed down for Harry's sake, despite the fact that
Yeah,
she is initially shown to be a very smart individual.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's something I really appreciate because it's like, especially because
Okay.
I see a lot of criticisms of HPMOR, and it's like it's hard to deal with the bias I have as a fan of it, but I very rarely see criticisms that are like good ones. You know, sometimes I see someone who just says, you know, they were just bored by it, which is understandable. You know, this isn't everyone's cup of tea or whatever.
I
But
do
there's a
have
lot of
to
stuff
admit
where
that
it's
later on in the story, it does kind of wear down, and it almost feels like the same sort of things are popping up, even if they're in slightly different forms. It's like the novelty of the book definitely wears on you. The later I got, that's why I stopped about a quarter in.
I see.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I hope you're able to like remember what exactly you mean by that so we can explore it later.
I'll tell
Mhm.
you the arc I specifically stopped in. It's the big Quidditch match. Sorry, no, not a big Quidditch match.
The
It's
tournament arc.
basically this big wizard brawl.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That is slight spoilers, but it is vague enough that they don't know. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Um.
that's all I'm going to say on it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, but one of the criticisms I do see some a lot of the time when it comes to this is that it's like one very pretentious and simultaneously dumbs down other characters to make Harry seem smart.
Hmm.
And this is I pointed out this moment because I feel like it's one of the earliest points where we can see that that definitely doesn't happen. You
Hmm.
know, like there is a lot of Harry going like, "Wow, this part of the Wizarding World is like really fucking stupid," and that's because it is. Like even in canon, it's not like or Yudkowsky changes some stuff just to make it more dumb, so
Hmm.
then he can laugh about how dumb it is.
To be clear,
You know,
like this only seems to happen with the characters that have been in the Wizarding World for ages. Because you look at the first years and they still seem to feel the same. They kind of seem to feel the same way. They
yeah,
they kind of don't quite get their head around how magic is working, and as opposed to somebody who's been there for like 25 years and is like at least and is just complete and is basically doesn't even know what the Muggle world is like for the most part.
Hmm.
yeah. And so like but yeah, I think this moment works well, and I think the reason that the criticism of like dumbing down other characters make Harry seem smarter, I think that happens primarily because people read the Ron segment and then they don't really finish the book, you know, because obviously if you don't like something, you're not going to read like the whole thing. But I think a lot of that opinion gets based on how like Ron is treated in this segment specifically, because a lot of people like Ron a lot and they feel like he was like, you know, made fun of, had a lot of like anvils dropped on him and stuff. And I think
Hmm.
that's somewhat fair, but I think it's really the only example of a character who was made dumber to prop Harry up.
I
I
see.
think.
And
Oh,
even then, I think it's a very like weak example because I feel like Ron is very in character in this segment. I
yes.
think if he looks dumber, it's because we're not seeing him through the eyes of like a normal 11-year-old anymore.
Hmm.
To be clear, I think some of the reasons why you would sort of consider the Wizarding World aspect dumb is because there's no character that's like an intermediate between the two. There's always characters that are like used to the Muggle world and there's characters that are used to the Wizarding world. There is no character that is used to both and therefore cannot make reasonable connections between the two. Of course,
I
Harry will end up turning into
disagree.
this person.
I disagree. I think that later, I guess slight spoiler is, I think both Dumbledore and Moody,
Yeah, I
who
was
ends
gonna
up
say
becoming,
Dumbledore.
yeah, Dumbledore is definitely a character like that, and I think it's what makes him like so great as
Oh
a
yeah,
primary
I'm
character.
silly. I forgot about that arc.
And then we end up meeting Alistair Moody, and he becomes like a pretty notable character later. And he's like Harry, but better in some ways in terms of how he views the way that the rest of the Wizarding world functions. Because even in like in canon, you kind of get hints that because of how paranoid he's normally portrayed, like he doesn't trust a lot of how things work. And that gets elevated here. And so he also serves as a mediary between like, you know, the more sensible ways in which the Muggle world might operate and the somewhat sensible ways that the Wizarding world might operate because he like has knowledge on magic that Harry doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same sort of deal with Dumbledore, where it's like they're never portrayed to have exactly the same opinions as on Harry as on stuff. When he's like, yeah, it literally just shouldn't work that way. This is like really dumb. Why would you ever do that? But they always like know where he's coming from and are like, yeah, that's actually you're making a good point. It's not wrong that you find this to be like insufficient or unsatisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
But like I would say that it's fair. Oh, okay. Fiora says that she forgot to specify that we hadn't
Yeah,
encountered people yet.
sorry about that. Because
Yeah, no, but
I would
I
have
was
figured
actually
if
gonna
somebody
say
who
that
would have like taken a look at the first 7 chapters was like this, and just sort of like hadn't seen anybody who'd like been able to make the connections between the two, they'd sort of think that this whole thing was a bit. I guess with a bad first impression, you could think that this whole thing was a bit stupid, and
Mm-hmm.
you hadn't read
yeah,
on to the point where there's particularly the Ministry of the Defense, yeah, of Defense Arts, I think it is. That sort of defense teacher. He's particularly good at
right.
this because I think he does actually end up talking about rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I was going to say, like, I think that is a criticism that it makes sense that someone would feel that way if they'd only gotten up to this point. I do think there are some examples where, that isn't always the case. Like, I think that's what makes McGonagall so great in the early chapters, because I don't think she's fully on the side of like, oh, the way wizards do things or the way wizards are is like great or all right, like she's the reason that she's so great to begin with is that she will reason with Harry and will see his reason and still provide like somewhat justification for the way that things currently are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the primary thing that makes her so great in the early chapters because she's the only real character we have to serve as a foil to Harry, and I think she does that really well. I don't think that like McGonagall is portrayed in a way that is meant to make her seem dumber or make her opinions be ones that we shouldn't take seriously, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Next thing is that we finally get introduced to Comet Tea. Um, we some random vendor is like selling it, and Harry's just like, "What is this supposed to do?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, whenever you take a sip, it's guaranteed that something surprising enough to make you do a spit take is gonna happen." And Harry's just like, "No fucking way! Like, I'm already having to believe a lot of shit." But there's no way a drink can manipulate reality to provide comedy setups. And so he buys like two like two 12
Two
packs of
dozen,
it. He buys two yeah,
two
he buys
times
two
24.
dozen of the fucking drink. And yeah, this is the first fully solvable mystery in the story. I do think or I guess I'll leave this up to you guys. Do you guys want to discuss it now, or do you want to come back after we've seen like the rest of the chapter and discuss it?
I'm willing to
Or not
discuss
the
it
rest of the chapter,
now.
the rest of the segment, I mean.
Yeah, we can start now.
All right. All right. So, I've said before, Common Tea, you have all the tools and all the hints available to you in these 6 chapters. They're all you theoretically need to figure out what Comet Tea does. There is a chance that Harry's right about his conclusions, there's also a good chance that he's not.
Hmm.
So right off the bat, I want you guys to tell me what you guys think of Comet T.
So, from what I've gathered, Comet T seems to change history to allow for a comedic event to effectively make perfect sense. This is notable in, I believe, chapter 11 when Dumbledore is when Dumbledore is believed to be insane, and it just seems to be that absolutely everybody knows this, despite the fact that that hadn't been present previously. So, yeah, the way that it seems to work is that it changes history in such a subtle way that basically everything would make sense to that particular event.
Okay,
I
Erin?
I think that I'm on the correlation does not imply causation side. I think that comedy doesn't like have a or I'm skeptical of any like so-called reality manipulating powers it has, and I'm more inclined to look at other like more mundane possible explanations because we do know that like this is like some like it's just a novelty drink. Like if it was actually very powerful, like it would probably like I know that a big theme that's been running through this story is that like the wizarding world like doesn't really know what is powerful and what isn't. But like still I get the sense that if this actually was able to manipulate reality on a large scale, then it would be not a novelty drink. So I'm
Right.
like the first explanation I would have is that like it just if you're drinking it, like it manipulates like it disturbs your throat a little bit, so you become like more susceptible to like or your brain. So like you become more susceptible to like coughing it up in surprise.
I suppose in some way it could be like an illusion in that regard.
Maybe.
Because I wouldn't
Do you
be.
think
Huh?
are you proposing that the comedy setups are hallucinations?
Perhaps.
Oh, comedy. I see.
Yeah.
Oh my.
You didn't pick up on that one?
No,
No, I
I
guess
didn't either. I haven't picked up on it until now.
That's so funny. What did you think Comet meant?
I just thought it was the name of the drink. That's all.
yeah.
Right.
Like,
That's amazing.
the blade is spinning really slowly, and the drink is just called that.
All right. So I'm gonna step in and say that the hallucination hypothesis is very unlikely, considering that it is consistent with the events that other people who have not been exposed to Comet are experiencing.
Hmm.
You could argue that, it is a widespread manipulation, but that would also, I think Erin has a good point that this is meant to be a novelty drink, and, you know, even if a common theme is that the Wizarding world doesn't really take note of the kind of crazy shit that they do all the time, it's still relatively unlikely that the drink is like extremely powerful. And I would say that spreading like universal hallucinations is pretty fucking powerful.
To be clear, this is also impacting like the two impacts that we've seen are like fairly likely to already exist. Like they don't really alter history that much in a way
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
well yeah you could sort of expect that there'd be a lot of reasons for you to expect that like somebody as old as Dumbledore might do some weird things. Of course, not half as weird as what happened there, because I do think there is at least some sort of reality. There's at least some sort of at least history warping aspect of comedy, not necessarily
Hmm.
reality warping, but that things from the past have been set up to allow for the thing in the present to happen, and they seem to happen in fairly isolated pockets. They don't. The pocket of information does not have much impact outside of making the user of comedy very feel very strange, I guess,
Hmm.
Hmm.
because everybody else just looks at it as like, oh yeah, that's a thing that's happened.
Right. All right, Erin, you said that was your. I don't think you were finished.
Um, well, I mean, well, what I said was just like it was just like a basic guess, and it's also unverifiable. I would say, and you did say that like we are given everything we need to know to solve the mystery within these chapters. So I do get the sense that I'm like only like at best partially correct. I need to do some more investigation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. Robert, what is your proposal for how Comet T works?
Um, I mean, I was kind of thinking that it was a maybe possibly what Aaron was saying, plus like being aware of what it does might make you more susceptible to it happening, but then it
Huh.
might be the opposite. So I was also thinking though, like
Oh, that's
it
that's a good
al- it
point.
al- it alters some kind of state where you say more crazy shit to react to. I don't know.
That's a very good guess. I like all of your guesses. They are very good. Um, so now I want to go through what all the hints that I took note of. I might miss some, but all the hints that I took note of. I won't. I'll try not to say exactly why I think they're hints. But I'll
Oh
just give
yeah.
them to you, and
Also,
then I want you guys to like.
something
Sorry, go on.
yeah, something very important about this, notably, is that the T disappears. I think that's actually like very relevant
Really? Why do you think so?
because I feel like the so-called reality warping effect might work similarly, where it's only like temporary or like very localized, and it just disappears after a little bit.
Hmm. Okay.
I don't know. Like again, I'm not like too fond of the reality warping idea in the first place, but yeah.
Right. I would
It just seems like anti-scientific, I guess.
right. Okay, that's fair. So the first thing I want to say about all your guesses, unfortunately, Fiora, that I think the strongest or most compelling reason for the reality warping idea to be the least likely is not only the complexity of the theory, but how it would work narratively.
Yeah.
Because Harry proposes that that is how it works, and he just needs to find a spell which alters his sense of comedy to make anything happen. And we do get hints that mind magic is supposed to be quite difficult, but
Hmm.
I think narratively it would be a bit odd if we had a spelled out road to quote unquote godhood in chapters. What chapter does he say that? 12, I think,
Hmm.
out of 122. So narratively, I think that's the biggest reason to be doubtful of that explanation. I won't say anything more on it yet.
Hmm.
Let me look for these. It might take me a while.
I mean, it could just be that he rules the world at chapter 24.
And then what?
It's just it turns into a slice of life thing where he's just having to rule and stuff.
All right, I guess that is a possibility, I suppose. Let me see. Okay, so the first instance we see Comet Tea being used. Um, is that Harry hears about it, wants to buy it, and takes a sip, and then he and Draco read the headline of from the Quibbler that says Harry Potter impregnates Draco Malfoy. That causes a spit take.
Cougars.
The second instance we see of Comet Tea being used is that Harry meets Hermione,
Hmm.
offers her a drink, and then asks her to take over the world, which notably she does not spit take at. It is
Hmm.
only later that she does a spit take. Um,
When Harry says that he can do magic by snapping his fingers.
yeah, yeah, that's when she says it. Um, and then let me see. When's the next time? Fuck, when was it? Okay, it was after the hat. So yeah, the next time we see it is in chapter 10, where Harry or Dumbledore is about to give a speech. So Harry is like, now would be a really fucking funny time to drink Comet tea if it makes him say some crazy shit. And then he does, or no, then he doesn't, and um, and Dumbledore still says some crazy shit. Uh, so yeah, those are like the biggest hints I would say, without like giving too good hints. So with keeping those specific instances of comma T use in mind, how does that affect your theories?
Okay, so Hermione doesn't know how the common tea works when she drinks it, so it can't be a
That
placebo
is
thing.
correct. That is correct. Fiora?
Um,
Uh, not really sure on how I change regarding that.
All right. Robert?
Not sure what to think of it.
All right. All right. Um, so in the instance where Harry gives Hermione the comment T, um, it's the specific wording. The specific wording is very important, and that's what I was trying to avoid giving you initially, because it is. I'm expecting you guys to get it once you take note of the specific wording. But the quote here says, uh, just as Hermione started to drink, he said, "I'd like you to help me take over the universe." Hermione finished her drink and lowered the can. "No, thank you. I'm not evil." And then the next time she takes a drink, it says, "I'm not impressed yet," Hermione said. Unnoticed, the green drink once again rose to her lips. And then it is, I think it's after that that she gets surprised. In chapter 12, the specific wording used is that, and Harry was struck by the inspiration for a brilliant experimental test. Hermione had said that Dumbledore was the most powerful wizard alive, right? Harry reached into his pouch and whispered, "Common tea."
mhm.
Um, and he, I believe, chooses. Oh yeah, he chooses to drink it, and Harry or Dumbledore does end up saying some like whack shit. I don't remember exactly what. Um, and then the next instance of Comity being brought up, it says, when all the plates were gone, Dumbledore once again stood up from his seat. Harry couldn't help but feel the urge to drink another Comet tea. He doesn't, and it then says, Harry inhaled his own saliva and went into a coughing fit just as all eyes turned towards him. How the hell? Dumbledore hadn't met, or fuck, he hadn't met Dumbledore's eyes at any point. He didn't think. That Harry was being surprised by Dumbledore saying if anyone had any complaints about Quidditch to go see Harry.
Mhm.
So, with the specific wording in mind, is there any new ideas that are being generated? And if you want, I can put them in the chat as well, if that helps.
Hmm. Um. Yeah, that one was the weirdest one.
What?
The anyone interested in reformulating the entire game of Quidditch should contact Harry Potter.
Yeah,
He's hearing shit.
I would I would say that is the biggest hint towards
Yeah.
the true nature of Comet Tea. That whole interaction, Harry thinking about it and choosing not to, and then Dumbledore saying that is the biggest hint towards its true nature.
So you have to keep drinking it, and if you don't, then it makes you hear shit.
A viable theory.
Yeah.
So to sum up, I would say that notable things about Comet Tea so far is that every instance in which we see it drunk is one where someone causes a spit take eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Hermione doesn't immediately, but she does drink again and then do a spit take. However, there is one instance in which we see someone not choose to drink it and still get hear something super surprising regardless.
Yeah.
There is one more piece of info that was not explicitly spelled out to us that should be very helpful to figuring out Comet T. Um, the only thing is that I guess this is part of why I wanted to talk about it at the end, because I had another big thing I wanted to talk about here. It's
Mm-hmm.
the explanation of positive bias. Um, Harry explains that there was this game that was played with a bunch of people, the 246 game, where they are told, give me any 3 sequence of numbers, and I'll tell you whether it fits the rule that I've come up with.
Mm-hmm.
246 does in fact fit the rule. You get unlimited guesses,
Mm-hmm.
and people would guess a lot of things, and you know they would still only 20% of them were able to get it right. And basically, the reason would be that they would give number sequences that fit what they already think the rule is,
Mm-hmm.
And when they get yeses back, they say that it's that. And when they are told that their rule is wrong, they keep trying for answers that they expect to give them yeses.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think of performing tests that they expect would give them a no.
Yeah.
And so only 20% of them ever actually get the thing right. And I have another story about that I'm going to bring up later when we get to that specific point in the book. But it's extremely relevant to the problem of Comet T,
Mm-hmm.
specifically in how I noted that in every instance we see it drunk, it does cause a spit take. When would you expect it to not do so?
When you
When you
don't
don't
drink.
drink it.
Right. And what instance do we see of someone consciously choosing to not drink it?
Um,
What do we see when that happens?
they do a
Spit
spit take
takes
anyway.
Just for taking
They do the spit take anyway. Right.
See, this is actually a universe thing where people just have a lot of spit takes. It's played for comedy in this universe.
Okay. I suppose that's a viable theory.
The committee is
Anyone
just
else?
doing that. You don't even have to drink it as long as it's just there. It will do the reality warping anyway. But for the record,
Yeah,
that's not
and-
my theory.
Interesting.
That's completely stupid.
It's like radiation. It's like a radiation of comedy.
All right. Erin, any
Um,
new ideas? Remember, okay, so let
I
me say
definitely
it all
buy
again.
more into the theory that the committee makes you more wary of weird shit that's happening. It basically makes you more wary of weird shit that's happening around you. It effectively
Okay.
injects you with comedy.
I will say that is not quite it, but very close.
mm-hmm.
And again, positive bias is an important thing to keep in mind when trying to figure this out. And the specific instance in which Harry thinks about drinking it and chooses not to and does a spit take anyway is the single biggest hint as to the nature of Comet Tea. So having repeated that, what is there any like new ideas generating? Do you guys give up?
I'm
How are we
not
doing?
giving up. It's just hard for me to come up with like any like positive theories because we don't really like have that many examples as to how magic actually works. Besides the sorting hat.
Right. Yeah, that is something that does make it hard here. I will go out of my way now and say that Harry is wrong
Yeah, of course.
about how Comet T works. Um, but the reason that he's wrong is that the actual possible answer exists completely outside of what he considers to be like a possible answer because he's still new to magic. That is the thing that makes this the most difficult. That's the most difficult part of the problem, that you now have to consider possible answers that encompass magic when you aren't quite sure what the magic is capable of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the
Gotta make a
sorting hat
truth table.
truth table.
What?
What? What? Huh?
Well, the
We need
sorting
to make
hat,
a
of
truth
course.
table.
The sorting hat we see works as like basically a basic artificial intelligence that kind of like talks to you, but also is kind of also absorbing your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I guess Comedy might work in like a similar way, where like, but I don't know. That doesn't really address the thing where he chooses not to drink it, but spit takes anyway.
Right. You are also allowed to like ask me things if they, because you might have like a question that I'm able to answer based on what has happened in the text so far, and I just forgot to bring it up. So like, you are allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we do actually learn what it is next chapter. So if at any point you guys decide that like you're not you give up on like trying to solve it right now, I do plan on just telling you since we're gonna learn immediately in the next chapter anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The next segment, I mean, like the first chapter of the next segment.
Yeah.
For you, Fiora, in particular, I am very curious to what ideas you have now that you know that the reality warping, or at least what Harry specifically says is incorrect, because your theory was quite close to his.
Yeah. I definitely tend to move more towards that this is more of a awareness thing, because that would sort of make sense as to why Harry is doing a spit take anyway, because like he's technically like he only drank the comet tea like, what was it, like 30 minutes ago or something. I'm just drawing random time out of my head here. The effects of comet tea should still be somewhat present, so he should still have a somewhat heightened awareness. The actual he doesn't
What?
he shouldn't actually have like, I don't think the magic would wear off after like 30 minutes. I think he would still have somewhat of a heightened awareness of like spit taking.
Without
Hmm.
saying, or I'm gonna say this, but do not take it as evidence one way or another, as to like the validity of your statement. What evidence do you have to believe, or what evidence do you have that makes you believe that the effects of Comet Tea would not wear off within the time frame of his last drink and now?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well, but like I
I
ultimately.
guess it doesn't really make sense when Harry's like already having thoughts of like going for another one, because that would imply that there's some sort of withdrawal.
This is just like Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that theory is pretty easy to debunk, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the reason why I dismissed it was because like you literally like spit out the common tea, so
Oh, but
Right. You never ingest, or Hermione does ingest it, but for the most part you don't, because you do spit it out.
or like you can ingest some of it,
Hmm.
but I took that to mean that like um that the effect that is caused by directly drinking the common tea. It only works while you're drinking it, basically.
Hmm. Okay. Robert, any new ideas? Are you on the same train?
Yes.
I could be wrong, but
Yes.
Yes, what?
Um. Yeah.
Okay.
This is too much
Um,
thinking.
I'm able
welcome to
to.
HPMOR, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Damn.
welcome to HPMOR, motherfucker. I told you it's a mystery book. There's a lot of mysteries. We're gonna do this many more times. It's gonna be so fun.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm able to
What
give.
if there was a mystery where where the police were trying to find your body?
Okay, sure. I'm able to. I'm able to give two more hints,
Hmm.
and they're only hints in that they specifically isolate the wording in one sentence each. The only thing is that I would not be able to give you any more hints after this. You will probably figure it out after this. I would be kind of surprised if you don't figure it out after this. Um, so do you want these two hints or not?
You underestimate how little I can pay attention.
The ADHD cast.
Again, I can write it all
that
down if you guys want
diverged
and
from
put it
the
in the
original
chat to stare
point,
at.
as neurodivergence do. I'm so sorry.
Do you guys want me to like put it all down in the chat? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I would. I think I would enjoy that.
All right. Give me a fucking minute. Let me see. First hint. All right. Here are all the hints I've mentioned so far. So for the sake of the cast, I will restate them. Harry hears about the tea, buys it wanting to test it, and sees a surprising headline afterwards. Does a spit take. Harry gives Hermione the tea, waits for her to be right about to drink it, and then says he wants to take over the world, which causes no reaction. Harry then says he can do anything by snapping his fingers, which causes her to do a spit take. Harry wants to experiment with the comet tea on Dumbledore, drinks and does a spit take at Dumbledore saying happy happy boom boom swamp or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Harry thinks to take a sip before Dumbledore talks about Quidditch, does not take a sip, and does a spit take anyway, and Harry's explanation of positive bias and understanding positive bias is important for the mystery at large.
hmm. Okay, so I would say that like my current like working theory is that um common tea like it makes people it makes you think that like regular occurrences or it just like heightens your like sense of skepticism to things like there's no way that's like real, like
Again, makes you more susceptible to comment.
yeah.
All right, how does that explain him choosing to not drink some and doing a spit take?
It was still in his mouth.
To be clear, I think he would do a spit take regardless of if you've taken
Because
the
you
comedy or not, because it's such a whack occurrence that you don't need a heightened sense of comedy to realize what the hell.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. I now have 3 hints I'm able to give. 2 of them I think would be lead like to you guys figuring it out. And if not, there's one that should definitely do so
Okay,
afterwards. Do you want the 2 extra hints?
I will take one of the 2 extra hints.
All right. Okay. So, specifically the wording of Harry couldn't help but feel the urge to drink another ComEd tea.
it's addictive.
Uh,
Oh, does it make you associate comedy with does it make you associate comedic occurrences with the tea itself?
It's a viable theory.
how does that make sense?
I was going to say it does. You are drinking it before the comedic events are happening.
Yeah.
So if an
Yeah,
association
so
is happening, I'm not sure how it exactly would work.
It's an addiction,
like,
and if you don't drink it, then you go into withdrawal and start spit taking.
Okay.
I do think the positive bias bit about the Quidditch bit is just like it's kind of debunked by the fact that it's so ridiculous that you would do a spit take regardless of if you drunk in comedy or not. It's not like
agree.
spit taking is mutually exclusive from mutually exclusive from comedy.
Like
I see.
what the fuck was Dumbledore on? What was he doing?
Dumbledore was being
Okay.
Dumbledore.
I will tell you when you guys get it right, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just if that wasn't clear. You are not there yet. Not quite.
Oh, I guess I will take the second hint then.
All right. It is specifically the phrasing. Hold on, let me find it. The phrasing with Hermione where it says, "Unnoticed, the green drink once again rose to her lips."
It's addictive.
This is when she's spit taking.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Does it make you drink it whilst you're breathing, so you accidentally so you cough it up like unknowingly?
Oh,
Like
That's a
you're
viable theory.
breathing,
I'm not.
and then you sort of like drink it, and it goes down the wrong way.
Okay. So that's a viable theory. I think the issue that all of your theories keep running into is that I've already I already know what the answer is, and I've
yes.
specifically noted an instance where Harry explicitly does not drink it and yet still does a spit take. And no theory attempts to address this.
Mhm.
Well, he still has
See, that's
some
the
of it
thing.
in his mouth.
It's not necessary for every theory to address this because the situation is so ridiculous that it doesn't matter whether you've taken this into comedy or not. There is no reason this needs to be
You're
related
so
to it.
close. You guys are so close to the answer. This is tantalizing.
It just does weird shit. Or no, wait, they're just weird shit in the wizarding world.
Yeah.
No, we've
I mean,
we've
that's
covered that theory
true,
already.
but that's not like an answer.
Dumbledore is just fucking with him. He made the drink and he's just like manually making them spit take.
You-
Yeah.
That's the
I
funniest
really think
thing
this
so
is a
far.
pretty shitty example of like positive bias here because it doesn't really make sense as to why this would have any relation at all to comedy given the
Yeah.
incredibly
So
wacky nature of it.
Okay, so
hold on.
are you guys okay? Go on.
So the main flaw in like the theory so far you're saying is that like none of them address like that. Oh, Dumbledore said some weird shit and Harry does spit take even without the comedy. So how is this scenario where Harry has the comedy but he's not drinking it? How is that like meaningfully different from a scenario where comedy is not at all present? That's
It
what I'm
notes
really
that he would.
wondering.
It notes that he thinks about it and then chooses not to, but irregardless is surprised enough to do a spit take.
He was just fucking
Proceed.
surprised.
I guess the magic isn't in the fluid then,
Yeah, that would make sense.
so it's more so that
It's in the can.
He's
holding the
It's
can.
manipulation of thoughts.
It's in the can.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Fiora. I didn't even hear you. What was that?
I guess it's manipulation of thoughts then, because like every time you think of comedy, things like comedy happens.
No, but Hermione isn't thinking about common tea because she doesn't know what it is.
And therefore she has no
Mm-hmm.
reaction.
No, she has a reaction. She does a spit take.
Yeah, she's not immune to comet tea. It's just the first time where she does not react.
No, she does
This
react when
doesn't
she
make
doesn't
any
know what it
sense
is.
to me. I really don't understand why the Dumbledore thing is any different from if Comet Teach simply did not exist.
I don't know. I just thought of two things. Or you know what? No, one of them is technically a hint I could give you, but it is only a good hint with knowledge of canon, and this mystery is completely solvable without knowledge of canon. So I will not
I
give
would
that hint.
rather not have that hint then.
Yes. I do have one more hint. After this, there's nothing I can really give you besides just the answer. I will say that you guys are very, very close. Each of you has provided something that is so very close to the actual answer. You're just not quite there yet.
I
How about
think
my
Robert was
answer?
on the
Again,
money
it
when he
doesn't
said
make
it's in the
sense.
cam.
Why taking a spit take anyway against something that's so severely jarring is actually anywhere close to being relevant to your example. This mystery sucks.
Do you
This truth
do you want the
table is
final hint?
true everything, dude.
Do you want the final hint?
Okay.
Sure, I guess.
Fiora noted that what Dumbledore said is surprising enough that you would do a spit take regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Is this or is this not true for every instance of someone doing a spit take after drinking comet tea?
It is. Like we see it with
Oh, you drink it and you get like a Minecraft status effect, so it persists even if you're not drinking it.
Hey, I already said this about like the fact that
Nah.
it exists. Like you've already spit out the comedy, and it would make no sense if it happened again, other than the fact that it's so comedic that you would do it anyway.
But yeah, like the first time, like it's this crazy ass newspaper article. Boy who lived impregnates Draco Malfoy. And the
Fred
second
real.
That's
and Fred
real.
real. Yeah, the second time it is Dumbledore saying the no. The second time is like Harry telling Hermione that he can do magic by snapping his fingers. The third time is Dumbledore saying a bunch of random ass words in a speech.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those are all like very ridiculous things that would make you do a spit take regardless. So
Right. So we can assume that the surprise would be present, like the level of surprise would be present without comet tea.
yes.
That is basically what Fiora was getting at with the Dumbledore example. And again, I will say that it is noted that Harry
So
wants to
comedy
drink it and
basically does
chooses not
nothing.
to.
What? Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
scam.
Yeah, but you can't deny that like the things that happened have been like localized to Harry, like with the headline "Him and Draco Malfoy" or Dumbledore referring to him specifically.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I guess that's sort of like the magic power, because that's why I went out with like the reality altering thing, because it's a very minor effect, if anything, in that sort of theory. Of course, it's been debunked now, but in some ways, it could be explained that way.
It makes other people pay more attention to you
Mm,
or think
no.
about you.
I'm afraid not.
Hmm.
I don't think I can really agree with that one. It seems to be something that is localized entirely within the drinker.
I'm having a lot of fun right now.
Nah.
Honestly, I'm not.
Are we
Um.
done? Do you want the answer?
No,
Okay.
I'll
Erin
be more
persists.
stubborn. Hold on, let me drink some water.
It's so funny
Spit
because
it out.
we're not even like halfway through the actual segment either.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of thinking.
Oh
I'm
wait,
proud of you guys.
never mind. I was gonna say like Hermione pouring the tea on the ground and it also disappearing, but like the tea disappearing doesn't really seem to have much to do with the power itself.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Um,
I guess isn't that more just because it's been technically being spit out? I guess. I think I would make that valid.
yeah, it's more.
Like
It's just
the tea only wears like completely stops existing the moment the magic wears off.
mhm.
No way.
I mean, it could be like
I'm
something like
definitely
really
thinking this is
simple,
something to do with its ingestion.
like the tea, like literally just it makes it easier for you to spit take. But again, like I don't know, like just some interesting phenomena happened.
Are there different ways that they consume this drink?
No, they don't drink it the same way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they all drink it from the can.
So if you like huffed it or like injected it, would it be different?
I
We
mean,
don't
how would
have
you be able to spit that
that
out?
information, and we don't have that information.
That's a good
in the
question. Maybe
book.
you like spit out your saliva. You just like spit.
Like I can't answer that because it's not given in the book so far. If
Okay.
I'm
Well, I
being real
mean,
with
it doesn't
you,
even go
I don't
into
think
like
it's
the
given.
molecular. It doesn't
Oh,
even go
maybe
into
with
like
like
what that
maybe it's maybe
the
with
molecular
sperm out your arm.
composition of coma tea. How do we even know that the chemicals in coma tea are injectable to begin with?
Hermione does drink it. She's probably the only character we see that does honest to God like drink Comet tea.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else we see does like spit it out.
No, Harry drinks it. He's like, oh, he like notes that it's very
Tastes good.
fizzy.
Oh, it tastes green. Yeah.
Yeah, it tastes green, tastes slimy.
Oh, you know what? That actually does bring up a good point. That is something I forgot. I guess it is noted that the salesman does say once per can, and we don't see someone do a spit take literally every time they drink, just at least once per can from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part about it. It's like, why does it always happen and
Like I said, you
coincide
guys
with a
say the
real
word
world
and
effect, real world event?
right. Like you said, you guys say the word and I will reveal all. I will say it's interesting that there has been very little incorporation of magic in your theory so far, outside of Fiora's reality warping theory.
Well, again, I'm hesitant to like work with magic.
I
I
mean,
think
like, I,
I think you should allow yourself to be less hesitant.
I guess it's sort of like a charming effect on the user in that regard. Like, as long as the liquid is present, that there is it will be it will be spit out,
Interesting.
or at least some quantity of it will be spit out. It's sort of what I was getting at by
Hmm.
the incorrect indigestion, incorrect
Right.
digestion.
Yeah. Like I said, I will say that all of you guys are like, you have ideas that are very close. Like what Fiora, what you just said, is almost there. Erin's theories, for the past like five that she's given are almost there. Robert said, the conclusion is that everyone spit takes regardless whether they drink it or not. That's almost there.
What the fuck?
It's just not quite. It's just not quite.
Fine.
No,
I
not
am
yet, not
getting
yet.
tired of this.
Please.
Fiora tires, and we do have to get on eventually.
Um. Um.
Get on with it, Erin.
Um.
She's thinking so hard.
I might have to veto you. I might have to just say it.
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
kind of need to know at this point because I literally
I
have
gave
no
you
idea what
all
some of these things relate to.
I gave
Like,
you all as much as I could. Maybe I'll listen back to this and realize there's something I missed that could have helped you guys figure it out.
Wasn't there this one
Um,
hint that you're gonna give, and you'll probably get after this?
yeah, I did give that hint.
Which was that one? That was the. Oh yeah, he was gonna think about drinking it one.
Yeah,
Um.
and it was specifically that um the thing that Fiora noted that she basically kind of noticed that every instance of a spit take happening was one in which whatever happened was so surprising that one would have happened regardless of the comment T.
So it makes you
So
hear shit.
no. The reason that that specific hint is important is that it implies that the comedy effect of Comet T does not actually come from the Comet T.
Yeah.
And the reason that I said that specifically the instance where Harry thinks about drinking it and does a spit take anyway is extremely important. The effect of Comet T is that it compels the user to drink it before a comedic event would happen. It does not cause comedic effects in any way.
So it just
That is
sees the
why.
future. That's bullshit.
Yeah, the hint that I said you could that could help you figure it out, but is canon reliant, and the rest of the mystery is solvable without that, is because of the fact that if you know about time turners, then predetermined history in a Harry Potter universe is something you would already know about.
Right.
Yeah, but like,
Boo! I hate linear predetermined history.
But I hate the fact that like I thought they were just gonna not do time in this. Are they gonna do time in this? Are they gonna do time travel?
Yeah, time is pretty important. I mean, it still works how it does in Harry Potter, and I think that's one of the few things
Fuck.
that Harry Potter does right.
I hate this. No, I hate that sort of time travel.
Is Harry Potter going to meet the dinosaurs?
No,
I
you can still only travel
seriously
back
have
6
a
hours.
huge
You
dislike
still
for that sort of time
cannot
travel.
really mess with time in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I have a massive issue with that sort of time travel. I'm
Well,
not
the thing
really
is
a
that
fan of sort of like fate is completely predetermined, except it kind of isn't because like we need that to happen for the canon.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I
it's like there
think
is
that I
only
understand not
one
liking that
timeline that
idea.
ever exists.
I think I understand not liking that idea, but like determinism follows from physics, so I don't really know what to tell you.
I
I
think you're
guess.
stupid.
See, the thing that I'm thinking of here is I'm thinking of like a probabilistic universe because the probability is also
Yeah,
very
exactly.
common in physics.
That would still make it deterministic, though.
Yes, but there is still like
But how would the T know to be like, there's like a 50% chance that this will be funny?
How does it know what is funny?
Magic. So that itself is not exactly clear. The only thing that is clear is that somehow it knows to compel the user to drink it before the user encounters an event that it would consider shocking and or surprising. That is why it is important that Hermione drinks it right before she does a spit take. It says that unnoticed the can goes to her lips and she takes a sip because it is a compulsion. That's why it's important that Harry thinks about it and then decides not
Unnoticed by
to and does a
whom?
spit take anyway.
By whom?
By her. She doesn't notice that she's drinking it.
I didn't think it was by her.
Who would it be unnoticed by?
Harry?
Why else would it be? I guess maybe it is. It's almost definitely both, though. And that's probably. Damn, I didn't even think about that until now. That's probably why Harry's first attempt at getting her to do a spit take didn't even work. Because she was very deliberate about taking a drink, and he was very deliberate about saying something he meant to be surprising before she took a drink.
Oh yeah, because
Because I
he
want to take
wasn't
over the world.
compulsed. He didn't feel the compulsion.
Right. Right. And Harry was compulsed to drink it and buy it upon hearing about it, and then he sees the headline.
Great.
So yeah, that's what Comet Tea does. That was the mystery of this segment.
My
Wait,
dishonest reaction.
Was Harry compulsed to buy 24 of them because his life had a lot of comedy in the future?
I don't know, but that's a really good theory. Probably.
The thing is, there's like several explanations for this. To me, it doesn't make sense as to why that is the specific explanation you have. Why
Because
specifically that one is the one that's chosen.
because I'm not even sure how to answer that. I'm
How
not
do
sure
we
what you're
know
asking,
it's not
actually.
another method? It's not another method of activation.
What other method of activation explains Harry wanting to drink it, choosing not to, and still hearing something surprising?
It's in it.
Because
It's still in
when
his
I
mouth.
noted that,
Addiction, perhaps. Perhaps maybe some non-magical effect.
what non-magical effect would it be? This is a magical item.
Yes, it is a supposed magical item. This is we only know this because we trust the salesman.
All right, but
You're
it's
being
not like
so base right now, by the way.
it's not like the salesman only exists like there. Like I think if I remember right, Draco specifically notes that it's like a novelty drink as well. So it's like
He's
a
in on
known
it.
thing. Now you're thinking like Harry.
I guess that is important. The fact that
Mhm.
it's already known in universe to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
The biggest,
But
I think
but
the
to
hardest
me,
part
the
about
verification that it's a magical item isn't actually there. It's an item, all right. It has this effect, but does it necessarily have to interact in a magical way for the user to
I think the
feel this
description of
way?
its flavor.
Like,
Okay, wait. One, it
I
does
still continue
disappear.
to go
Why are
through
we
like,
forgetting that it disappears?
maybe it works like petrol.
It
What?
teleports itself into your mouth.
Like you spit it and it
You know
disappears.
how
Oh, it
gasoline lamps
vaporizes.
have like high vapor pressure. It disappears that way.
Would that not have noticeable effects on the environment?
No.
Like the immediate environment, I mean, because they run multiple disappearing tests within a compartment on the train, Harry and Hermione.
Maybe Comity is inert.
What?
Maybe Comity is inert, as in its actual presence in as vapor pressure is not actually notable to a Muggle to
Neither of them are
until
muggles.
very high concentrations. Also explaining why there can be some Comity that is digested but not actually spit out.
Okay. I think that is a fair explanation. I'm gonna throw a couple complexity penalties at you.
Yay, complexity.
Who knows if it's actually not that complex? Who knows if it's actually not that complex? Like it could be. It could literally
It
just
might
be some fucking Schrodinger's theory.
it might be
We don't
simpler
actually
than the
know this.
compulsion theory.
There is no confirmable truth.
What?
It's like we don't actually know this. There is no confirmable truth.
But I know. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what you're saying this in in like relation to.
Basically, the theory that is presented as if it is true. Everything makes sense, and it would make sense to be a scientific theory. Like in the realm of science, this would indeed be valid, but it doesn't have like it wouldn't. It is not the only valid explanation. Is my point.
I don't think that the explanation you're trying to provide competes.
In what manner?
Well, like I said, you've garnered a lot of complexity penalties, which always will hurt a theory.
Um,
Secondly, I think the flavor and the way that it is described is also evidence that it's a magical item. Because it's not the only time we get a description of Harry consuming allegedly magical food.
Consuming.
And if we can't accept that the food that he's eating at the Hogwarts dinner that is described as magical and also has very weird tastes described in ways that are similar to the Comet Tea is magical, then there's a lot that we can't trust, and this whole conversation is moot.
I guess. Anyway, can we move on from this at this point? We've been talking about this for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, we actually have been talking about Comet Tea for like a long fucking time.
Comet
I
Tea.
didn't expect it.
Commenting non-understanders be like, oh guys, it makes you spit take more. Oh, it makes them pay more attention to you. Oh, everyone just
Why are
spit takes
you-
a lot of these favors. Commenting knowers, it time travels. It knows the future.
I think it's really
Just
fucked
what?
up that you just
It just fucking works. Trust me.
it's really fucked up that all the stuff you came up to make fun of were things that Robert said.
That's fucked up. Well,
That's really fucked up.
I
How would you
didn't say
do
the
that to
dumb
Robert?
shit. He said like people are addicted to common tea. Which to be fair,
That was actually a pretty good theory.
I think he would in this universe.
You think he would be addicted to Comet Tea?
Yeah.
Damn. That's crazy.
How do you get addicted to Comet Tea if you like? I guess if you have like a really
I have
crazy
a really
sense of
funny
humor.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
well,
tired
I'm
of
glad
it.
we got through that. I was so excited to talk about Comet Tea with you guys. I guess you guys got really close. I was honestly expecting like Fiora to figure it out, but I guess she was kind of hung up on the reality warping thing.
Yes, I'm still salty that it's like that this is like the only plausible explanation. Complexity does not exactly kill a theory.
No, it doesn't, but it does hurt it every time.
Yes,
Yeah, but
My
it's
only
just magic.
weakness, time travel.
complexity does in fact hurt a theory, but also like I am more inclined to
Oh,
exist within sort of like scientific boundaries.
okay. You know
as
what?
opposed to
I did fuck up a little. There was one more hint from the previous segment that I could have given you guys that might have helped.
what
Motherfucker.
was it?
Specifically that Specifically that we know that, or not we know, we have a very strong reason to believe that that precognition is real in this universe. Because we know that there's a prophecy about Harry.
Oh.
Oh yeah, there's a prophecy.
That's just what they
It's gonna
say.
come true. Yeah, yeah. Why the hell should I believe that?
You can argue that, but like that's still evidence.
Nuh-uh.
You
Well,
do
I
realize
mean, how the hell would people even know who the hell Harry Potter even is if that's like there's not like some plausible truth to that. I kind of have to admit that the predeterminism in that regard is at least somewhat prevalent. It's very difficult to deny,
Yeah.
you do.
Like
especially
I think the most
that far into the past.
yeah, the most compelling thing against Comet T is like why the fuck can just a T access the thread of all possible futures and stuff, you know?
Mhm.
But like yeah, I should have brought that up. I forgot that that would be like something that was relevant information. That is
I
my bad.
Yeah, I don't think that would have actually pushed me to figure it out specifically, but I think that would have pushed me away from my current theories. I
Hmm.
still believe that it's just like people just digest the commentary wrong.
You
Hey,
know, that's why when Aaron
we
said that, I was
haven't
like, that's a
ever
good.
had a point in time where somebody who's drunk a commentary and nothing comedic has happened.
That's not true. We had that with Hermione.
And
That
she
wasn't
never spit it
funny.
out. Oh, wait a
She
minute.
spit it out on the second instance.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. Are we moving
You
on?
see,
No.
within drinking the comedy, like that's
I
I have
I
to
think we need
admit,
to move
I
on.
have to give it some sort of credit. It's not like the comedy has been digested in that case, and it's not like the actual magical effect has worn off in a way. Like we haven't tested this correctly. What needs to happen is that we need to have a random ass test subject that is locked inside a room for 24 hours with comedy, and we need to make sure that they are uncontrollably spitting it out. And yeah, and make sure there is
What would that
absolutely no
prove?
stimuli. Yes, we are torturing a human. This is because the
What would
magical
that
effect
even
might
prove?
not even work on a rat.
Okay, I'm moving on. I'm not engaging with that idea.
Yes,
We've spent far too long on
more
this.
brutal. We need to do more brutal, like downright psychopathic testing. The
Fiora,
only
please,
way,
please.
I
I
think you
want to have
brought this
lunch
on
at some
yourself,
point.
honestly.
right?
That's
Moving
just mean.
on.
Right.
You guys do
Okay.
realize that for every future mystery, my first guess will immediately be, oh, they saw the future.
Yeah, I do. I'm really excited for that. I knew that would happen. I knew. Um, so then after we get introduced to Comet T, there's a segment where Draco says, or not Draco says the thing, but they see the headline and Harry jokes about plotting a murder, and Harry realizes that the sounds coming from the rest of the platform had turned into more of a blurred white noise at
Mhm.
the same time that Draco had reached inside his robes. And I thought that was cool. There's there's a lot of like really subtle like uses of magic in the story. Like that was a very blink and you miss it moment. If Harry had not pointed that out, I know that when I read it the first time I didn't even think about it. Um, and then yeah, it's Occam's stick. No, it still works. Probability just because it's
No.
magic doesn't mean probability theory goes out the window
Yes, it
until
does.
magic shows us that probability theory goes out the window.
Uh, no.
Magic hasn't shown us that yet. Anyway, yeah, so then
You're being science biased.
Beast.
anyway, um, then yeah, Draco says the line about sexually assaulting Luna when she gets older, and Harry's like, "Oh, right. He was raised by Darth Vader. That makes sense."
Holy shit.
Darth
And then
Vader
he's
wouldn't do
like,
this shit.
anyway, um, and then yeah, he's like, he's Harry's having this like internal freak out, and he's like, just wondering what legal recourse would she have if that happened. And then Harry goes on to describe, or no, Draco goes on to describe the way that magical law works, and it's just another instance of highlighting how fucked up the wizarding world is, like as a or its systems, how fucked up they are. Because he's basically like, yeah, well, I'm part of an ancient and noble house, so they would be challenging the Wizengamot, which is just the conglomerate of wizard house or old houses of the wizarding world or
Hmm.
Wizarding Britain in specific. And, that wouldn't work because my father has friends in high places and a lot of money. And then they would get charged for libel because obviously the claims wouldn't go through and that would ruin them financially. And so they probably won't even bother mentioning anything at all. And Harry's just like, wow, I'm going to burn this motherfucker to the ground.
Average British
Uh,
law.
do you feel like that was a justified
True.
response?
I think he
Yeah.
didn't go far enough, and he should have just killed him,
Yeah.
Yeah,
or at least just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Harry says, I wonder how difficult it would be to just make a list of all the top blood purists and kill them.
Yeah.
That was the line. I meant to
And
ask if you thought that was too much.
Geist.
I can't believe the story hat's like, oh, you wanted to kill the the Wizarding World equivalent of Nazis. Maybe you should go to Slytherin. And it was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. What the hell are Gryffindors supposed to do then?
Be Nazis.
Right. My bad.
Yeah. And then Draco goes on to give like this speech that's basically about his worldviews, because Harry's like, yeah, what is this whole blood purity thing about? I don't know anything about that. And he gives a speech, and Harry notes that it's persuasive, and it's persuasive in the same way that like right-wing conspiracies are, in that they provide like a neat little story about why things are bad that already fit whatever prejudices you already have.
The Wizarding World has fallen. Millions of Muggles must die.
Right. And then
Sorry, Fiora.
Right, I
Draco's
just stopped
Draco's
having a meltdown.
Draco's blood purity speech is actually made me realize that I kind of fucked up a little bit by telling you about the interdict of Merlin last segment.
Don't worry,
Because
I
when you
forgot
know
about it
about
already.
oh, okay, then I won't define it again. But I will say this: if you do remember what it means, then his speech is very clearly describing the effects of the interdict. Um, so yeah, and in response to like Draco's speech, I like that Harry's is persuasive as well, but also just because it's like true. Robert said, "Enter Dick." Okay,
He was kind of real for
Okay.
this.
and
Yeah.
there's a nice line here that I liked, where like, because Draco's all like, "Oh, you want to take the powers of both and like rule the universe," and Harry's just like, "I don't want to rule the universe. I just think it could be more sensibly organized," which is just a long way of saying that he
Yes, he
doesn't like
does want to rule the
the
universe.
term. No, I was gonna say it's a long way of saying he doesn't like the term world domination. He prefers to call it world optimization, because he's basically saying that here.
Yeah.
Um, And then Harry's like,
It's
"Yeah, you could
almost like
join me."
he's there because somebody hasn't done it before. It's like he knows that it will happen. It's just that he wants to know when. And of course, because Harry is Harry, he's going to be that person.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then yeah, Harry gives his whole speech where he's like, "You could help me. You could learn the things I have, but there's a price that many people are not willing to pay." And Draco's just like, "What? What the fuck is it?" And he's like, "Learning to admit when you're wrong." And when I first read this, that was impactful for me. I mean, because I was like 12, I was still like a dumb kid, and I was just like, "Wow, Harry's really right." Even at that age, I encountered so many people who would take self-destructive paths or just refuse to learn about things because they couldn't handle being wrong, you know?
Oh, I'm cheated,
And
just like me.
I have to admit, I was probably better at doing that back then than I am now.
mm,
I still admit that I am wrong in several cases. It is just that I would perhaps act on it a bit sooner back then.
right. Yeah. And then like when I read this for the first time too, I was like that was probably the first moment where I consciously internalized that I would try very hard to not be wrong about stuff. And for me, part of that just means that like if you're going to have to admit that you're wrong, do it as soon as you can so you can stop being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it comes up a lot in my life, I guess, but or not a lot, but it comes up frequently enough where it actually quite annoys me when people say that they see me as someone who always needs to be right. And I saw like a really informative video about this where it was about like this
Why are you being
guy who was
informed?
saying
Was it because you
Oh, I
want to
have
be
to
right
admit
more?
that. Yeah, I have to
what?
admit. Sorry.
Why did you
Carry
watch
on.
this informative video? Was it because you wanted to be right more?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Fiora, you were
definitely
saying?
had like. Sorry, damn it, I'm really bad at this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've
You're fine.
definitely had a lot of issues as, particularly as a teenager, like more so in dealing with the fact that I'm wrong. I know that I'm wrong in a lot of cases. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I also sort of like want to pr- prove where I'm coming from in a lot of cases, and
Yeah.
there's some cases
Mm-hmm.
where it can just be completely unclear, and I offer like an alternative explanation. But
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
then there's just some cases where it's just better to admit that you might be going from the wrong path. But in a lot of cases, it's also kind of ambiguous. So you just start I just start having to have this feeling inside that I cannot be wrong because knowing that I'm wrong is like some sign of weakness as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to something that is arguably a strength.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I feel
Um,
more inclined to believe that it's sort of like that Harry is talking about the strength as opposed to the weakness of like being wrong as opposed to admitting you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I think that I'm really glad that you brought up like your personal experiences with it because I actually saw like this short informative video a while back where it was this guy who was neurodivergent in some sense. I don't believe he stated exactly, or at least I don't remember in what sense he said he was, but he was talking about this phenomenon that he experiences with uh, neurotypicals basically where sometimes they'll argue about stuff and there's a disagreement and someone will accuse him of always needing to be right and he disagrees because he tries as I do to make a point of finding out when they're wrong and fixing that as soon as they can. And the way that he phrased it is that for maybe for neurodivergent people in general it's like there isn't a need to be right but instead a need to be correct, and for um, neurotypicals, it's not like a nuance that they usually understand all too well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like for me and for this guy as he was talking about, it's like if you think I'm wrong about something, then like I want you to show me that so I can update my beliefs accordingly, like so I can make that correction so I can stop being wrong. Like I don't need to be right in an argument. I want to be correct, you know? And if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being that, then let me know or show me whatever it is I need to see so I can make the adjustment and know that I need to make an adjustment and stuff. Um, and yeah, like I related to that a lot because like I've definitely had a few arguments with my more neurotypical friends where they're like they feel like whenever we argue about stuff, I've always need to be right, and it's like I argue with conviction because if I don't think I'm right about something, then why would I like believe it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be stupid to like believe in something that I'm not confident in. Um, and there are a lot of times where I will like I'll make a claim and they'll make a counterclaim and I'll just be like this isn't like true. I can show you this, this, and this, and their counter will usually be like, oh, why do you feel like you need to be right or whatever, like why do you keep arguing? And it's like it's not because I want to be like, haha, I'm right and you're not. It's because I'm like, okay, you're a person who I respect and whose intellect I respect, and if you think I'm incorrect about something, then like that's something I want to engage with. That's something that's valuable to me because if you're right, then I want to be on the same page that you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And yeah, I guess it relates to this because it's like I don't think that like learning to handle being wrong is something that a lot of people do. And I think it's probably ties into like why I have these experiences with some people where it's like for them being wrong means more than it does to me, or it means something different in a way where it's like I feel the weight of being wrong, and then I try to quickly move past that so I can start being correct.
Mhm.
And like I think what Harry's talking about here is like the fear of really feeling that weight of being wrong. Cause like I'll see on Twitter a lot, like uh, in relation specifically to like Smash, is that a lot of people will like have tier list opinions or whatever, and then like some player of that character will get a really good result, and their opinion like immediately switches.
Yeah.
And obviously recency bias is a hell of a bitch, but I
Mhm.
think one way of like combating it is learning to really feel the weight of, having to update your opinions.
Mhm.
And I think that when people don't, then it becomes really easy for them to flip their opinions. And um that is very much like a double-edged sword, you know?
Mhm.
It means that they're wrong a lot and never learn how to not be, or I guess to use HPMOR appropriate phrasing, they never learn to be less wrong.
Yes. Mhm.
So yeah, it was just one of those things that Harry said like early on in this book that were really impactful to me growing up.
Mhm.
And it's like I guess now it seems kind of silly because it feels like I've grown enough that they feel like very intuitive, like just things that make sense, things that you maybe don't need to verbalize. But 12-year-old me definitely like needed to hear it.
Yeah. That's fair. So, I wanted to bring up um, this, uh, this one line from chapter 8, Positive Bias. Um, oh yeah. Um, Hermione felt a stab of disappointment. She really wished she wouldn't have felt that way. The boy wasn't a teacher, but it was still a test, and she got a question wrong, and that always felt like a little punch in the stomach. It said almost everything you need to know about Hermione Granger, that she had never let that stop her, or even let interfere with her love of being tested.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great line.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely like it's a way the author shows us that like Hermione's good at dealing with being wrong. That like she feels the weight of it, but she never lets it stop her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that Hermione is fucking great character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so we approach the end of chapter 7, and Draco writes a letter to his father about the whole deal with Harry,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like,
This guy's
"What would you
teaching me how to be
say?"
a scientist rationalist nerd. Send in the Severus Snape.
He's like, "What would you say if I said I knew someone my age, or I knew someone who would call you a perfect instrument of death and said that I am your only weakness?" And Lucius responds, "My beloved son, I would say that you had been so fortunate as to meet someone who enjoys the intimate confidence of our friend and valuable ally, Severus Snape." What do you guys think that means?
Um, I guess is like Harry's just like thinking in a Slytherin way, or learning to think like that.
Oh, that's a really good interpretation.
Yep.
Robert?
Yeah.
I'm guessing the main thing that I was thinking of is more so like Harry thinks in a certain way that would just make him a generally powerful ally for any sort of manipulation purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Even if
Oh my
Harry
God.
himself is difficult to use in that regard, Harry would still prove to be an incredibly valuable tool because of his more than unique mindset.
Mm-hmm. How can he
Like
be more
Okay,
than
those are
I
really
don't
unique?
good.
even think he thinks like I don't even think he thinks like a Slytherin. He just thinks like a Harry.
I mean, maybe thinking like a Harry and thinking like a Slytherin aren't that different.
I, you could also say the same thing about being a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I think they're both valid. I mean, we learn in the sorting chapter that he's very much has the qualities of every house.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
Hence
this.
why I think he thinks more like a Harry than
He's like
a
the
particular Harry.
avatar.
mm-hmm.
What was
Because
that,
I
Robert?
imagine most
He's
people
like
that
the
go through the
avatar in that
sorting hat
sense.
think that way. It's just that the sorting hat doesn't actually vocalize its own thoughts because Harry is Harry and wants to make the hat
I
cooler.
would say, I don't disagree with you. I just think that the language of the characters that aren't Harry, like they would say he's thinking like a Slytherin, and I don't think that's inaccurate either.
Yes, in particular, his I guess the main issue here is that is the association with Slytherin and malevolent thoughts. That, as we also know,
Well,
Slytherins aren't exactly inherently malevolent, and neither are Harry's thoughts. They are they
well,
just appear malevolent because they perhaps approach it in a unconventional or perhaps a
I
way that would
disagree.
profiteer from the known balance that had already been established.
I disagree with that reading because I disagree that in this story, the characters we've met so far would associate Slytherin as you say the association is. Like, why would Lucius or Draco consider Slytherin thought to be something like adjacent to malevolence when the, you know, praised Slytherin qualities, the ones that Draco himself praised in Harry, are cunning, you know?
Slytherin is kind of like if Bad Guys School was real.
No way. Bad guys at school.
But yeah, like I think this is really important for like future the rest of the story where it's like in canon, Slytherin is all the things you just said. Like, and that's why um Slytherin existing as a house in canon makes like no fucking sense
Yeah,
because it shouldn't, you know. But like Yudkowsky goes out of his way to establish Slytherin as something greater than that. And it's
yeah.
very
I
important for the
have to admit, I
story.
am sort of like projecting the canon onto this, as opposed to taking the book by its taking the book by its own value. As Slytherin
Mhm.
itself is more just a thinking style, I guess. Because there are like in this story, it does seem like there are a lot of Slytherins that are like, yeah, they just think in a way that perhaps maybe alarming to a lot of other people. Like it's distinct,
Yeah.
but it's not particularly like a very tabooed distinct.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I think this is the second time now where in your commentary you've touched on something that will remain like a prominent theme of the story moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like what Slytherin is and means and what it should be is like actually quite important to the rest of the book.
You think Yudkowsky's a Slytherin?
Um, I think he's as Slytherin as Harry.
Right.
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 And so yeah, what do you guys think of oh no, Fiora left.
He's just having internet issues.
Ah, okay. What do you guys think of Harry's gamble with Draco? Like he is going into this knowing that Draco is mostly a bad person. It's not really his fault, and he's trying to turn him to the light side by showing him that one of his foundational beliefs for being the way he is wrong.
I don't think it's much of a gamble. I think he's just like, hey, want to hang out more?
He's like, oh, I could fix him. Oh,
Yeah, no, he is like, oh, I could fix him. That's exactly what's happening. I don't know. I think not seeing it as a gamble is kind of fair. I mean, I think that it is inaccurate to say that Harry is just saying like, "Oh, you want to hang out more?" Because like to
That's
me that's
fair.
very clearly not what's happening because he's like he has a whole thought process where he's freaking out about the things that Draco is saying and then he has like his speech and he's like, "Look, you can help me, but you have to learn to admit you're wrong." And he like stresses that as like this really important sacrifice that not a lot of people could do and like that's because he's like, yeah, all the things you believe, I'm going to tear them down, and that's gonna teach you to not be like this.
This is how Champion Leon talked, by the way.
Wow. Which one? Do you mean the character or the user?
The user. I
Wow.
can help you, but you'll have to learn to admit when you're wrong. Like he said, like I would not be surprised if he said those exact words.
Incredible.
Truly, he is the rationalist that we don't need, but the one we deserve.
The one we deserve.
Yeah.
Dire. Dire. Anyway, so yeah, going to chapter 8 finally. By the way, recording is at like 2:16. We're just now getting to the second chapter. Um
I don't know if I'll be able to finish this whole thing. Like get to the end of it
that
Me when I have
because
that's
Big
it's
honestly
Burger.
fair. We might have to we might have to cut this one in half too.
Me
I
when
don't
I
know
have
yet.
Big Burger.
Shut
Oh
the
my
fuck up. I
god.
fucking hate you. God, you're so insufferable. You're so bad. Why aren't you a better person? Okay, you know, I should stop dilly-dallying. So yeah, chapter 8, we meet Hermione. What do you guys think of Hermione?
She's funny. She's silly. She's a girl boss.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yay. I love Hermione in the story. She's so great. Um Yeah, so we meet Hermione. Harry's like looking for her. He's like, "Hey, who does anyone know where I can find someone or does anyone know the six quirks and or where I can find Hermione Granger?" And Hermione hears him and she's just like, "I know them." And he's like, "Oh, so you're Hermione Granger." And she's just like, "What the fuck? I didn't say that." And he's like, "I don't care. I know you are." And
Poor
then
gal.
she's like, he's asking her questions. She's like, "Wow, you have a really good memory. Do you mind if I test it?" And he tries to, and it's very funny. She says that he's like reading a book, trying to pull out like some facts from it to test her on, and she's like, "I can see the page from here, you know." Which just shows us that she's a very upstanding little girl. She's very honest. Um, and there's a funny line where after that, after Harry's done testing her, he's like, "I have a proposition for you," and Hermione's like, I don't know. I was told I'm not supposed to pay attention to those as a girl." I thought that was
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, it's not that funny considering what Draco has said earlier.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, my bad.
But yeah,
And then she she takes note that Harry sounds like a book,
Mhm.
and she's like, "Oh, I guess all people who are in books sound like books. That's kind of crazy."
turn of
And
words.
then and then and then we have the comment interaction where she's like, "No, thank you. I'm not evil." Um and then it's very interesting. As the conversation goes on, she seems to find like more and more annoyance with Harry.
Yeah, she's very
Be
annoyed at him.
because he's all like, "Oh, you know, you can help me," and she's like, "I don't even know if you're actually smart, dude. Like, what's going on?" Um, and I think I don't know, and I'm not just saying that like in a non-spoilery way. I'm just like actually fuck, what's the word? I'm actually just guessing here. I think this is like supposed to mirror what Yudkowsky estimated would be the audience reaction to Harry up until now, or at least part of them. Because to me it reads like she's annoyed in like a way that your average reader might be annoyed with Harry. Like he's being kind of pretentious, he's being kind of presumptuous about his intelligence, especially in relation to others. And she's just like, "You haven't really shown me that you're intelligent. I've just been told that." And I think that's like something a reader up until now might be thinking. And
Hmm.
then she like freaks out because he snaps and she's like, "Oh my god, he's all the Dark Lord's power in his scar." And he's like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. That was just a trick." And I
I
bring
was
that up
trolling.
specifically because he was trolling. I bring that up specifically because it relates to last time we talked about HPMOR about like whether what he was doing with Draco was mean or not.
Hmm.
And I brought up that like I think that based on how he's acted so far, like if Draco had been upset by that, he would have, stopped. And I think this is like another good example that, Harry probably would have if that had happened, if that's had been how it played out.
Hmm.
Um, and then Harry describes positive bias. He does the 2-4-6 thing with her. And I wish I had read ahead and remembered that this part was here because I think this would have been really fun to do with you guys the last time we talked about HPMOR. But I just forgot that it was here. I've actually played the game with a few people before just because I was curious, if they'd be able to get it.
I would
And
have gotten it.
I don't know. I don't know if you would have. It's easy to say that
No,
now that
like
you know
like
about
like
it.
like while I was reading, I was like, wait a minute, can't this isn't telling me anything. It could be a ton of
Okay,
things.
maybe you would have gotten it then. Sounds like you would have then. But yeah, I've tried it with 3 people IRL. None of them have gotten it.
Wow.
But it's very fun to see them come up with their theories and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I wanted to expand on Harry's explanation of of positive bias, in that it ties into this idea of answer space, and I have a really good analogy or example for this. Answer space is basically the
Just a range of
conceptual.
possible answers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's a conceptual space that is the range of possible answers for anything. And the idea is that, to find the truth, if you just guess, you're shooting like worse than blind, right? Because in thousands of millions of possible answers, what are the chances you actually land on the right one the first time?
Hmm.
And so every like observation, every piece of evidence you're able to get is meant to narrow down answer space. And all of the guesses that, oh, okay, Robert has to go. Unfortunate. Should we cut it? I don't know. What do you guys want to do?
I want to talk about the Demons of Chaos and the Sorting Hat, and I don't want to talk. I don't care about anything else.
Okay. Um, so just be clear, you do want to do that now then.
I mean, you can like keep going on your thing about answer space.
All
If
right.
you,
I meant today
yeah, yes, today.
because both Fiora and Robert are like dipping
Yeah, I mean, like,
is why I'm bringing it up.
I
Or do you mean I guess you can still say what you want and then we can like discuss the rest of it later.
okay. I mean,
Do you not want to do that?
you mean about the things I wanted to talk about, or about the thing you were saying?
Yes.
What?
The thing you were saying.
Okay, so yeah. Anyway, the Demons of Chaos, basically like, or the Lords of Chaos. Suddenly, Neville gasped and took a step back. I remember that voice. You're one of the Lords of Chaos. You're the one who gave me chocolate. Harry Potter turned his head from the window and rose dramatically. I never, he said, voice full of indignation. Do I look like the sort of villain who would give sweets to a child? Neville's eyes widened. You're Harry Potter? The Harry Potter? You? No, just a Harry Potter. There are 3 of me on this train. Incredible line, by the way.
I love your reading of that. I love that line and you elevated it. It's so good. There are 3 of me on this train. Okay.
But yeah, basically, Harry Potter and friend George Weasley, they see Neville like being really scared, and they're like, "Whoa, what if we actually like scare him and show him that like the thing that he's scared of isn't actually as bad as he thinks it is?" So Fred and George come up with a spell to make the scarves over their faces darken and blur like they're undead kings, and then they just give him chocolates and sweets and money and stuff. We were like, let's give him some money! Ha ha ha! Have some nuts, boy! Have a silver sickle! And dancing around him and laughing evilly and so on. I think there were some people in the crowd who wanted to interfere at first, but bystander apathy held them off at least until they saw what we were doing. And then I think they were all too confused to do anything. Finally, he said in this tiny little whisper, go away. So the 3 of us all screamed and ran off, shrieking something about the light burning us. Hopefully he won't be scared of being bullied in the future. That's called desensitization therapy, by the way. So this is
Yeah.
really stupid. This is really dumb. It's a little bit
Yeah.
mean-spirited, but like, it's too ridiculous for me to like really condemn it.
Yeah. I wanted to discuss that and just see what your guys' take on it because he's all like, it doesn't matter how bad it looks. It's like, how bad is it really? I gave him chocolate and shit. And I think the way that we're supposed to read it is that it's like Harry's a little bit in the wrong, and like both Hermione and Harry are like a little right and a little wrong because like Hermione's very confused about trying to be angry about this because I think for the reason you said, it's like it's kind of so ridiculous that it's hard to be mad about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially because like he did give him chocolate and money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she's kind of right in that it is mean-spirited, and I think Harry is kind of right in that like, ultimately it matters more uh like what the consequences are compared to how it looks. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we're kind of supposed to read that he's still not completely correct because it's like there were other ways to do that that didn't involve scaring a child, probably. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
And it's like the idea of consequentialism and utilitarianism, it's like they're both valid ways of thought, but the main way that people mess up is that they kind of use it to justify like any sort of thing if the consequences are good, when your goal should still be like minimize the amount of suffering and then get those same like good consequences. And I think it's very easy to imagine that Harry could have found a way to do that without, scaring him. And
Mhm.
especially we get this with the Sorting Hat later, like this is one of the reasons I love the Sorting Hat that I'll get into later. He's like able to cut down Harry like no character we've seen so far,
Yeah, the
and
Sorting Hat helped him.
he's like, yeah, no, you said all these good things, and yeah, they might be true, but that's not really why you did it. You
Mhm.
just wanted to have some fun and thought it'd be funny to scare this kid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the Sorting
So I
Hat
think
knows him and like
yeah,
calls
I,
him out.
hmm yeah, I think we're just supposed to read it as like Harry's kind of saying some good ideas, but he's not completely in the right, mainly because it's like there were other ways to obtain those consequences, and you chose this one for some reason.
Hmm.
Was that all?
Um, I mean, just yeah. I mean,
I think inevitably we're gonna have to like
yeah. Okay,
do
that's fair.
this.
I would
You know what?
I would have liked to see Harry in like Hufflepuff or Slytherin though. I gotta say that.
That's fair. That's fair. Before we stopped recording last time, I was super excited to talk about Harry's explanation of positive bias when he does the 2-4-6 game with Hermione.
Mhm.
Because one, it relates to the idea of like answer space, which I think I've like talked about with you guys before, where it's just like a conceptual space of all possible answers for a question, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
and I have a really it also or it relates to the idea of like how beliefs are primarily useful and how they constrict your expectations of reality. But before I get into that, I have a pretty relevant story to like positive bias. So like 2 maybe 3 years ago, I went to this convention, this anime and gaming convention with some of my friends in high school, and we went to this Pokemon 20 questions event that they were doing. So because we were all Pokemon fans, I was definitely like the biggest Pokemon nerd there. Like they were just kind of more casual slash normal fans. They weren't someone who had played competitively for like 4 years. So
Mhm.
so yeah, we went to that, and they would just call two people up, and then like they take turns asking questions until someone figures out who the Pokemon is, and then whoever figures it
Mhm.
out first like wins a prize, and the prizes were like plushes and stuff, nothing big.
Mhm.
But so we watched like three people go up there, and then eventually my friend, we'll call him Retros because that's his Smash tag. He gets called up, right? So
Mhm.
it's me, my friend Truth, and my friend Retros. Retros gets called up. He goes up there, and we have like very little faith in him or at least I had very little faith in him getting it right going up there because he doesn't really know very much about Pokemon. Like, there's a lot
Mhm.
of the games he hasn't played. I think at the time he had only ever played Emerald, like fully.
Mhm.
Uh, so we were just gonna see how it went. And his opponent was also not great, but he just got like
Mhm.
really lucky because the reason I say his opponent wasn't great is that his opponent's first question was, "Is this Pokemon in Smash Brothers?" Which is a terrible question, uh, because if you get a yes on that question, one, the chances of that happening are very low because like this was 3 years ago, so I think at the time we were still at 900 Pokemon. So if you get yes, the chances of that happening are low because there's only 10 Pokemon that are in Smash, like as
Uh-huh.
playable characters. And if you get a no, you've learned basically nothing because it's only 10 characters that are in Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Um, but he gets really lucky, asks that terrible question, and gets a yes. Because it was a character that was in Smash Bros. And then immediately Retros just starts guessing every character he can think of in Smash Bros. Instead of like trying to
Mhm.
narrow it down. Because like I said, there were still like 10 left, and I was actually thinking about this a while back, and I think the optimal route there would have been to like um after that you ask, is it part of a starter line? Because if you do, you can either narrow it down to four, yeah, or narrow it down to like five Pokemon, or cut the rest of them out. So either way, you cut um the amount in half. So you go from a 1/10 chance in guessing right to like a 1/5, and
Wait,
then
isn't Pichu and Pikachu part of a starter line? because Pokemon Yellow you start with
Yes.
Pikachu.
Yes, but I don't think
No,
most
it
people would
should
count
just
that.
be Pikachu.
Pikachu.
Yeah, no, I don't think most people would count that, but even if they did, you still narrow it down by a really good amount. Like the numbers just change from you either eliminate four or you eliminate three or you like narrow it down to six. And
This is anti-yellow discrimination.
yellow isn't a
True.
real game. Um,
Wow.
What's wrong with you?
anyway, but yeah, so instead of doing that, he like just keeps guessing, and he should have been narrowing it down by type because like if you ask is it a starter line, then you narrow it down to three types, and then after that, depending or no matter what your opponent asks, you should probably ask is it fire or is it water type, because if your opponent just guesses, then they've eliminated one of the Pokemon, so now it's down to four, and
Mm-hmm.
then you either are left with the two fire types, Incineroar and Charizard, or the two water types, Squirtle and Greninja.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask for one of those, and if they eliminate one of the water types or one of the fire types, then obviously you ask the other type. And you can keep doing this to the point where I think you can make it so your chances are basically 50-50 for your opponent and you,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of doing that, he just kept guessing. And it's relevant to positive bias because like he just heard something that gave him a yes, and then immediately started to like try and come up with answers instead of eliminating it and trying to get no's. And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is a really good example
He has
because
like 20 questions, right?
yeah, and I think this
Oh,
is
is the goal to guess it in less questions than the opponent,
yeah,
or is it?
or well not like less questions, but just before because you take turn at asking questions.
Oh, okay, that
So
makes sense.
So yeah, the reason I think I like this as an example of positive bias in relation to answer space is because the answer space is really easy to conceptualize. It's just every Pokemon ever. And then as you
Mm-hmm.
ask questions, you gain evidence that cuts down the possible answer space.
Mm-hmm.
And then in relation to the idea that beliefs are primarily useful in how they constrict your expectations of reality, it's mainly just that like if you have a hypothesis or theory that allows for everything, then you don't really know anything. It's like when old philosophers would say like stuff like, "Oh, everything is ultimately fire," or "Everything is water," or they explained all life with like what was the phrase? Elan vital or something.
Oh yeah.
And it's like that didn't really tell them what to expect. It just allowed them to explain results after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And Hermione tries to figure out like how she can create a belief about like the T that constricts her view of reality when she's trying to think about like what should happen or based on her hypothesis when should the pop like not vanish.
Mm-hmm.
Um because yeah, that's her trying to like generate a no answer. And in relation to our own investigations about the tea, that was why the bit about Harry still doing a spit take without drinking it was like so important
Mm-hmm.
because what you guys needed to figure out was on your current hypothesis, when should a spit take not happen? And all of the ones you guys generated just were not able to like account for that specific instance where Dumbledore just still said some fuck shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the last thing I wanted to say about that was that like on a similar vein of Elan Vital as a failure to be like a real explanation. This is why Harry in the first chapter is when asking McGonagall like how she turned into a cat, and she just says magic. He's like, that's not an explanation because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
tell him like what to expect or what he shouldn't expect. Um, and as a like meta element, I think that's where a lot of like magic systems will falter in stories
Mm-hmm.
because if they're like soft magic that kind of allows for everything, then you just fail to have like a compelling story because then the question is always why aren't they just using magic to solve this problem, you know?
Yeah.
And so like even if you're gonna have soft magic systems which don't have like defined super concrete hard lines or whatever, it's like it still needs some sort of restrictions. And in future chapters we see that with in what the exact restrictions are in this universe. But even in canon Harry Potter, it's like okay, you can't transfigure food, you can't transfigure gold, and it's like they're very arbitrary rules, and it's not really explained why you're not able to do those things, but like at least they are there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then let's see. I only have a bit left about this chapter. I really like the line where when Neville is accusing Harry, or like realizes that it's Harry, he's like, "You're the Harry Potter," and he just immediately is like, "No, just a Harry Potter. There are three of me on this train."
Yeah.
He's just really
This is a
committed to the
good
bit.
line.
And then yeah, we get to the scene where Harry explains what he did to Neville, and I wanted to get your guys' input on like the ensuing argument between Harry and Hermione, because Hermione's mainly like indignant that he would do that because it does appear quite mean, but Harry's
Mhm.
just like, well, yeah, it looked mean, but I gave him chocolate and money, you know.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
Hermione's like, yeah, but that might give him nightmares. And Harry is like, well, then he'll have nightmares about monsters that give him chocolate and money, which was kind of the point.
Hmm.
And he basically just justifies it like by saying it's a consequentialism and stuff. And I just wanted to know what your guys' takes on it were.
Hmm.
Rob?
So he's just like the problem she has is that he was misinforming or disinforming.
Spreading misinformation on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the right word. I don't know if I would call what Harry did like disinformation. Why do you say that?
Well, he knows it's wrong. He knows it's false, but he says it anyway.
Says what?
Wait, did I remember it wrong? I thought she was mad because he was just like saying that there were three Harry Potters on the train.
Oh, no. No, she was mad because Harry like and the Lords of Chaos were scaring Neville but giving him chocolate and shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
uh,
If you don't have an answer, you can just say that.
I don't. I don't exactly remember reading this.
Okay.
Chaos to meet you.
Okay. Fiora?
Hmm. It doesn't really tend. Trauma doesn't tend to sort of meld that way, even if even if that person has done good things to you. Harry is perhaps. He's pretty. He seems to be mistaken in human psychology. Like the assumption, yeah, that there's a particular term for this that is like prevalent in education, and it's a big example for why current education systems fail. Oh, it's positive and negative reinforcement.
Oh yeah.
He's
Right.
trying to do positive reinforcement on Neville, and it fails because what's going effectively the thing that's gone through is something that Neville just didn't want to experience.
Right. Right, okay. Yeah, I think
So
that's a
yeah,
good
Harry
take.
is just he has a good heart with it, but he fails to understand exactly how it feels for Neville, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My follow-up question is that taking into account what the hat says about this particular situation, how does that affect your view of it, if it does at all?
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that page up. I did not remember that happening at all.
Right, I'll sum it up. So basically when the hat is talking to Harry, I think it's particularly about like his coldness or whatever. Um, he basically just tells Harry like, I can see your entire mind. I know like you're trying to rationalize some things, but I know that you're doing it because I'm watching it happen in real time. And he's basically just like, you came up with some pretty good reasons for why you did those things to that Neville boy, but we both know that you really did it because it sounded fun and you were able to come up with good justifications afterwards. Is basically what the hat says.
Yes. It, I'll be clear, it definitely does seem like a fairly. It's almost like a fairly childish way of like. It's a fairly childish method of apology in a way.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And that's sort of what I'm reminded of. like if you give someone something to compensate, it's all fine. But
Right.
of course, Harry is Harry, and Harry will want to play pranks on anybody,
Yeah. 100%.
as is seen later in this section, particularly chapter 12.
Yeah. Um, Erin, how about you? Because you seem to be in agreement with Harry that it's like it was fine because of the chocolate and stuff. How does the hat play into your view on the
Um,
situation?
well, the hat. I really do like the story has a character because it is basically like it's like an anime villain. Like I've studied all your moves. I know the perfect way to defeat you. No, no, Masaka. And like
Okay.
Average shonen.
So true.
but yeah, like I do think the hat is like correct in that like Harry's rationalizations are incorrect. But I still do think like I still do think that like as a prank it's funny, but like I think pranks are just often hard to rationalize. And I think Harry would do well to learn from that and just do funny shit for the sake of doing funny shit
I
without
see.
being like, well, this is how I'm optimizing the world. This is how I am making the people around me better at spotting their internal biases.
Right.
It's like it's like he's living in a fable, but like he's explaining the fable. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I would say that my take on it, the first time I read it, my take was that like Harry was completely, right. Because while we see Hermione like as a very smart character immediately, we know that like the main difference between her and Harry, because they are smart in different
Hmm.
ways, is that Harry knows some of the training of like the methods of rationality, and Hermione is unfamiliar with like the more formal aspects of it. Uh,
Hmm.
and so the way that plays in here is that like she's kind of succumbing to like the base instinct of, wow, that sounds like a mean thing you did to that person. And Harry's
Hmm.
just, well, like, yeah, yeah, it does, but is it though? Like, are you thinking about all these other things? Um, Now that it's like my fifth, I think, reading, maybe fourth, um, I think the way we're supposed to take it is that they're both like a little right. Especially
Hmm.
when taking into account what the hat says about it. Like Harry is a little right in saying that like yes, there are some things that can look pretty bad, but um can be like morally justified because of what the consequences of them are like supposed to be. Like,
Hmm.
if you have, say, a set of people who have unchecked power, and they happened to die in an accident, for example, that was like staged by someone, that
Hmm.
sounds pretty bad, but if it
Hmm.
ultimately means that, a lot of people are safer for it, then that's what matters.
Hmm.
So I think that aspect is like correct, but I think that we're also supposed to think that Hermione is right in saying that like it was still mean because the main flaw in what Harry did to me is that his justifications are like valid, but
Hmm.
only if you um take for granted that that was the only way he could have gone about it. And it like very clearly wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if trying to get Neville to like be better or be like less fearful, if that was somehow the only way they could have done it, then I think his argument that it was justified is a lot stronger. But it's like I think the fact that Hermione reacts the way that she does is supposed, and the hat does, is supposed to be telling us that like, yeah, there were a lot of other paths that he could have taken to achieve those consequences, and he chose
Hmm.
that one because it sounded the most fun,
Hmm.
even though
Yeah.
it was kind of mean.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how I think. Like, that's what I think of the scene. I think both of them are supposed to be a little right here.
Hmm. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're getting into chapter 9, the sorting. This is like this is one of those things that is why I would always tell people if they're gonna read this, read the first 10 chapters and then decide whether you want to keep going. Because I think the Hat is the most important character in the beginning arc of HPMOR. Like the
Hmm.
single most important character. Without the Hat existing as he does, then it gets very hard to like enjoy the rest of the story, I think. Because the Hat is the first character we see that can really cut Harry down.
Yeah.
Because like everyone else is either Harry doesn't like fully respect their authorities in the case of like McGonagall, for example, or his parents, or we're meant to be shown that they don't really like understand him on the level that they should because of whatever like rationality or morality or whatever it is that Harry believes that they're just not familiar with. And
Hmm.
that's the case with Draco, that's the case with Hermione, that's the case with everyone up until the Hat, because the Hat is uh it's basically like an AI that's just borrowing his intelligence on top of its own,
Hmm.
so it can just literally read him like a book. So there's nothing he
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
really, or not nothing, but because we see later on that there is something, but there's very little he can do to get around like the judgment of the Hat. And an early or a criticism that I end up seeing from a lot of people that like don't finish the story is that we're supposed to see Harry as this like ultra super genius who's always right about everything and stuff like that. And it's like if you read up until the sorting and you read the interactions with the Hat and you still come away thinking that, then you are not very good at reading.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Hat.
Yeah, I particularly like the remarks that the Hat gave at the end. It's just sort of like Harry didn't think of every possible option that he could have gone with there.
Yeah.
I don't remember what specifically it was, but it was like you forgot to ask him my secrets or something.
Yeah.
You forgot to ask about the deep magic that created me. No, no. Sorry, Harry Potter. It's too late. You're going to Slytherin. No, just kidding. Ravenclaw. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that when we get into the proper chapter, because I actually I just realized the sorting doesn't happen until chapter 10 for Harry. The conversation with the Hat. We see the sorting start in chapter 9, so I'll just brush over it real quick because not a lot happens. There's a line here where it says that he was still trying to get himself under control from his encounter with the ghosts. The really truly sad thing was that he did seem to be getting himself under control again. It seemed ill-fitting, like he should have taken at least a day, maybe a whole lifetime, maybe just never. What do you guys think that was about?
Um, I don't know. He feels like, I guess, he's just an imperfect being.
I see. Well, I mean, like, what do you guys what do you guys think happened with his encounter with the ghosts? Like, why did it shake him up so bad that he feels like he shouldn't be able to like recover from it? This isn't something you're like meant to figure out, by the way. I just like want to hear if you guys have ideas.
They made him scared. They said boo.
Right. This is a good guess. Aaron?
Um,
Because
Hold
like
on.
we end up
I'm looking for the line.
yeah, yeah. The reason I ask is that like we do end up learning exactly what happens here later, but it's not like a mystery that we're intended to solve. So I just like want to know what you guys' guesses might be if you like had set on that line or anything.
Hmm.
Because I know that the first time I read it, I saw that and I didn't think anything of it. I think Yudkowsky as an author is really good at abusing the fact that a lot of people will just skim over anything that isn't dialogue when they're
Hmm.
reading, because there are like lines like this where it's like, yeah, I read that the first time and I was just like, oh, okay, and then I immediately moved on.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not seeing the line. What page is it on?
Let me check.
The voices.
What? The voices?
Oh, I found it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if the page count is different from my ebook reader, but I'm seeing it on page 132.
Hmm.
Fiora, I thought I heard you start to say something. I don't know if you wanted to.
No, I just kind of forgot about it.
Right. Okay. That's fair. Like I said, it's a very nothing line. Very easy to skip
Yeah,
over.
I mean,
I mean, like I
the
said,
ghost. So weird.
yeah, no, like I said, it's not something that you're like meant to figure out. So if no one has any thoughts about it, then that's fine. We can just move on.
Okay, I think I'm solving the mystery. I think the ghosts came from the future.
Right. All right. Okay. You know what? That
What?
reminds me. That
What?
that reminds me. I was legitimately considering for a short period whether to cut the entire like comment T mystery section and just make it its own video because of
Hmm.
how potentially long this episode's going to be. But I ultimately decided that that's too much uploading. So I probably won't do that.
Come to tea.
Okay.
You sound so disappointed.
I am. Right, and then
I'm
so
guessing a lot of the problem was because of my mold.
no, it's not even that. It's just that like that recording itself was 2.5 hours long, and we only got through one chapter at that time because of trying to figure out the mystery. And I was like, when I cut down the, because obviously there was a lot of quiet time because
Oh,
everyone
let's.
was thinking.
You know what? One thing I wanted to consider for this chapter is like I wanted to call it chapter 7 3/4, just because it's like that first chapter is so long that when we talk about the rest of this, it's basically going into a new chapter.
Right. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll make the first recording be like, oh yeah, this is chapter 7 3/4, and then the rest of the recording was the rest of the chunk.
Right.
But yeah, so another thing in chapter 9 that I wanted as like a discussion point was that Harry briefly touches on his view on the rest of the houses, and I forget exactly what he says. I think he's like nerds in Ravenclaw, rich kids in Slytherin, something about Gryffindor, and then everyone who does the actual work in
Wanna
Hufflepuff.
be heroes in Gryffindor.
Yeah, wannabe heroes in Gryffindor, and then everyone who does the actual work in Hufflepuff. And I was wondering if any of you guys were surprised by Harry's like reverence for Hufflepuff as a house.
I don't know
No,
shit.
not really. Hufflepuff just kind of seems like the best way I would describe Hufflepuff in this story. This just seems like the good kids class, not necessarily the nerd, not necessarily the smart kids, and not necessarily the ones who will particularly go the furthest in life, but the ones that will be assured to not be bad.
The ones who care about Ted.
Yeah, I think those are good takes. I guess I realize now that this was an ill-fitting question because I think maybe the reverence for Hufflepuff would only really come as a surprise if you had not only read canon but also had read a fair amount of fan fiction. Because Hufflepuff is very commonly like the house that no one gives a fuck about.
Hmm.
So the fact that like Harry has this amount of respect for it to call them the only like hard workers, it was like for me that was like, oh, that's refreshing to see. But I guess without that
Yeah.
context, it's just a normal line. And then the very last thing about chapter 9 is that there's a funny line where he's talking about this person that just got sorted, Sally Ann Perks, who said, and Harry says that she looked like she
Perks.
might what?
Like Percocet.
Okay. But yeah, Harry says that she looks like she might mysteriously disappear the moment you stop looking at her and then never be seen again or even remembered. Any guesses as to why she was described that way?
Maybe she was one of the ghosts that Harry encountered.
She was a
Okay.
cameo. She was an actor cameo.
Okay. That's close, Fiora.
What?
Any guesses on
Sorry, I am having bad audio processing issues right now.
That's fine, that's fine.
He really is a
I am
robot
like
girl.
focusing on nothing and I'm still forgetting everything that's being said.
I was asking, Harry describes Sally Ann Perks as a girl who looks like she might mysteriously disappear the moment you stop looking at her and never be seen again or even remembered. Do you have a guess as to why he described her that way?
No,
Right,
out
okay.
of ideas.
So Robert was close because this is a meta joke Sally Ann Perks is a real character in canon. She only appears during the sorting and never comes up ever again.
Oh,
Right.
That's all the joke is.
incredible.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure in this story, I don't think she ever shows up again either. I don't know if she does. I don't remember.
Stupid, silly cameo.
You're cute.
Okay, so yeah, chapter 10, which I subtitled Harry Creates Life. Um, this is where we get to see the
What?
hat. Harry created life in this chapter.
And
He
then
fucks.
and then proceeded to uncreate it.
Shut the fuck up, Robert.
What?
No, he does not do that.
Oh.
He does uncreate it, but he does not fuck, Robert. I'm sorry to say.
He got an abortion.
Boy who lived impregnates Draco Malfoy.
No! 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 I can't believe this. Anyway, so yeah, so basically we end chapter 9 with Harry walking up to the podium to get sorted. The hat gets placed on his head, and then Harry asks a million questions. He's like, fuck, I wish I had the quote. You're close to that, right, Erin? And you have it open?
Which quote?
What Harry asks the hat, like, at the end of chapter 9.
Oh yeah, he's like, don't threaten me yet. I have questions I need to ask you. Have I ever been obliviated? Did you sort the Dark Lord when he was a child? And can you tell me about his weaknesses? Can you tell me why I got the brother wand to the Dark Lords? Is the Dark Lord's ghost bound to my scar? And is that why I get so angry sometimes? These are the most important questions, but if you got another moment, can you tell me anything about how to rediscover the lost magics that created you?
Yeah,
Baseball.
and then and then there's like a bit of silence before the hat's just like, "Oh dear, this has never happened before."
Epic fail.
Epic fail.
So a funny thing about that line is that I don't know if you guys had noticed it. I don't know like where you're reading it on, but the author note for chapter 10 or no, the author note for chapter 9 says if anyone can figure out what the last line means, I will tell them the rest of the story. Apparently, one person did actually end up figuring out what happened and then got to learn like the rest of the story when this was being released, which I thought was cool to mention.
Wait, what? Like oh dear, this has never happened before?
Yeah, like if
Oh,
you guessed what that meant, Yudkowsky told you what the rest of the story was. And
like
apparently,
the entire rest of the story?
yeah.
Wow.
And then I guess apparently one single person actually managed to get it.
That's apocryphal. No one actually got it. No one actually cared.
What?
It's an urban legend. No one got it. He's just saying shit.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, in chapter 10, we open up and the hat's immediately like, I seem to have become self-aware. And Harry just starts freaking the fuck out. He's like, "What the fuck do you mean you have become self-aware?" And then the hat is basically goes on to explain how he works. He's like, "I have a small amount of memory, or like I have a substantial amount of memory and a small amount of independent processing power," which is a funny specific phrase to use. I wonder if that was how the hat would normally describe itself, or if that was it borrowing from Harry's vocabulary.
Probably the latter, I would
Yeah,
guess.
probably.
Yeah. Now that you posit that, it's definitely, to me, it's pretty clear it's the latter.
Right. And then he says, my primary intelligence comes from borrowing the cognitive capacities of the children on whose heads I rest.
My
I
my primary my primary my primary cognitive ability comes from the.
What are you
Okay.
doing? What is this bit?
I'm making fun of the Sorting Hat.
Right, okay. Anyway, he says, I am in essence a sort of mirror by which children sort
We have an
themselves.
essence. It's a sort of.
You can't do this the whole time.
Okay, just for the Sorting Hat, please.
No. You already did it enough. You're not going to do it for every line the Sorting Hat says.
Fuck you.
Yeah, she is. Your only way of dealing with this is to cut her out every time.
What if I just mute you until I'm done?
Now,
What if,
dude.
what if you keep yourself safe?
What?
What if it said our fastest and hardest boner?
No, you
Quickest
can't say
stat
that.
for getting a boner.
I'm kidding. You can't say that. Anyway, he says the Sorting Hat's like, yeah, most children just don't think about the fact that the hat's talking to him, but because you were wondering how the hat worked, I now wonder how I work, and now I'm self-aware. I guess is basically what happens. Um, and then Harry's just like, oops. And I think it's really funny that the hat's like, frankly, I do not enjoy being self-aware. It is unpleasant. It will be a relief to get off your head and cease to be conscious. And Harry's just like, isn't that dying? And the hat's like, I don't give a fuck. I sort kids. That's what I do. Fuck, where are my notes? Oh yeah, and then so I think this conception of the hat is awesome, as I've already gotten into. It's a perfectly honest, self-reflecting mirror. Um, and literally, this character is like the best character at cutting Harry down, like in the entire book, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Does the hack appear again later?
Unfortunately, not.
Awesome.
There is a
Well, glad
scene.
that's settled.
There is a scene where Harry is like in Dumbledore's office and he sees the hat, and I think he thinks, I wonder how mad the hat would be if I wore it again, or something like that. But yeah, the hat does not like get to be a real character again.
Soy egg.
Soyeg. Um, but so yeah, like no one can cut Harry down the way the hat does. I really like how the hat dissects how Harry feels about allowing the hat to die. Um, he's basically like, um, let me see, let me find it. Yeah, so he's like, I need you to keep the secret of making me self-aware a secret because I don't want this to happen again. And Harry thinks he can't just let it go like that. He couldn't just forget that he accidentally created a consciousness that only wanted to die. And the Hat's just like, you are perfectly capable of doing that, regardless of your verbal deliberations. Your emotional core sees no dead body. So as far as you're concerned, I'm just a talking hat. Even though you tried to suppress the thought, I'm literally reading your mind right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
can you just make this fucking promise, you dipshit? So then, the following line is even better because it says, in a moment of horrified empathy, Harry realized that this sense of total inner disarray must be what other people felt like when talking to him. And the Hat's just like, yeah, now make the promise, please. Um, and then I said here that I didn't realize this until I was like looking for it in this read through, but yeah, no, the hat is probably meant to be an example of essentially a perfectly calibrated artificial general intelligence. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's self-aware, it's conscious, and it's intent on doing exactly what it was made to do, um, and nothing else. And it's part of why like the only way that Harry figures out to bribe it is to be like, well, you need me to do what you need to do, and if I refuse to cooperate, you have to cooperate with me, so I do what you need me to do. Because it can't sort Harry like on its own. Like Harry basically needs to make a choice um along with the hat. And I think for other kids, I think we're supposed to read it that your average child under the hat like doesn't consciously get to make this decision. Like the hat doesn't ask it this or ask them this, but because Harry made it self-aware and it now has to talk to basically like a dumber version of itself. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
here are your options. Figure this shit out. Um but yeah, like the hat's just like, I'm sorting hat. I sort children. That is all I do, even though it's like fully aware. It's like that's all it cares about doing because that's what it was calibrated to do, and it also still wants the best for like the children, not even just Harry, just every child. And this comes up when
Mm-hmm.
Harry's like, I think I would just be mean to people in Hufflepuff, and he's like, that is potentially a good point. Uh, and then he tries to figure out something else, and then yeah, they go into deliberation about where to put Harry, and uh, the Hat says that he will be happier in Hufflepuff than in any other house. And Harry just responds that happiness is not the most important thing in the world to me. I would not become all that I could be in Hufflepuff. I would sacrifice my potential. And I just wanted to know what you guys thought about like Harry feeling that way as an 11-year-old.
I mean, it's definitely a very short-sighted
Okay,
worldview,
he's
I
an
think.
extremely gifted 11-year-old. I will be honest, he is about as mature. In terms of his own decisions, he's about as mature as an adult. That tends to be how most gifted children are.
Okay, so ignore the fact, ignore his age. What is your take on him feeling that way? Erin, I didn't quite hear what you had said about it.
I think it's very short-sighted, to be honest.
Right. I think that's fair. Fiora?
I feel like he just really, really doesn't want to be in Hufflepuff for like no discernible reason. It's just the Sorting Hat isn't bothering to say, yeah, no, please go to Hufflepuff, please, please. You're definitely faking this one.
Right. Robert?
Uh, what was the question again?
The
What
hat.
do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, Erin, you do it.
So Harry is so the Sorting Hat's telling Harry like, oh, you need to go to Hufflepuff because you're gonna be like really happy there, and Harry's like, no, I can't be all that I want to be at Hufflepuff. I won't be able to reach my full epic rationalist potential, and also I'd be mean to the kids there. What do you think of that?
Uh, you should go to Hufflepuff for that.
Very true.
Why did you phrase that like going to Hufflepuff was a punishment?
You're going to Hufflepuff.
Yeah, it was a punishment because he
Okay,
No, I
doesn't want to
agree.
do it, so he gets so he has to do it now.
it'd be really funny if the hat was just like, well, that settles it, Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then the hat does something that's actually kind of super important to the story, but like a bit easy to brush past. And he says that he basically asks Harry, like, do you think you are the first potential Dark Lord to pass under my brim? And I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think the hat is referring to, like when he's talking about Harry's potential to be a Dark Lord?
I don't know. I don't like the idea of a Dark Lord as like a crystallized identity.
I was
Um,
I was I was gonna
like something
say,
that you either are or aren't.
To be clear, isn't the
He's
Dark
one of the
Lord mostly a concept in Harry's mind? And if the Sorting Hat is pulling from Harry's mind,
yeah, I was gonna mention the exact same thing, Fiora. That is a very good point. I think here we're supposed to be seeing it not as like a crystalline, fully defined thing, but whatever Harry conceptualizes as a Dark Lord.
yeah.
Okay.
but he's basically, I think the Sorting Hat is just trying to remind him that there are people like him out there. Again, like Hermione, who might not have quite the same malevolent intentions sometimes, but still has the smarts to pull it off.
Hmm.
And of course, Draco Malfoy,
What?
as in other sorts of Dark Lords as defined by Harry.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I was confused for a second. Aaron,
What?
what was your take? What do you think the hat is referring to?
Um, I mean, I guess just the capacity to like control a bunch of other people.
Really?
Yeah,
And you think Harry has that?
yeah.
Why?
We see him control people like throughout the story so far, and like not like in a Machiavellian sense, really. Not really to get ahead, but just because he's fucking around, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's yeah.
Yeah, it's not especially fancy, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then Robert, what about you?
Um, this is about his capabilities of being a Dark Lord, right?
Yeah. I'm wondering what you
Well,
think the hat is seeing in Harry that reflects that.
the becomings of a dark web intellectual.
The comings
Care
of a
to
dark web intellectual.
care to elaborate?
Well, he's just ultra rational and that 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 uh dark web intellectual
He
are
has that
Dark
INTJ
Lords.
stare.
Go on, Rob.
Uh, that's kind of all I thought.
Okay, that's fair. I think these are all good takes. I I will not speculate on this matter. I cannot think of a way to do so that would not be leaking future information. Oh yeah, but so then the Harry is like, okay, how many people did you give this warning to about their potential to be a Dark Lord? Like, how many actually became a Dark Lord? And the Hat's just like, I cannot actually say, like, I can't know that because I don't know anything about them until, like, after I stop being on their head. And Harry's just like, I wouldn't do that. And then the Hat's just like, yeah, I've heard that one a billion times. And
Yeah.
then the Hat's like, you are Dark Lord material. And then Harry's like, why? Just because I once thought it would be cool to have a legion of brainwashed followers chanting, Hail the Dark Lord Harry, which I feel like is not a normal thought to have. Am I wrong for that?
That's. I think you are.
What?
I think. Uh, yeah, I think you are.
You think I'm wrong? When you were 11, did you imagine having a legion of brainwashed followers that chanted,
I don't remember what I thought when I was 11.
that's crazy, that wasn't that long ago?
That was 9 years ago.
Yeah. And in percentage, how much of your life was that?
Half?
Right. So not that long compared to like a 30-year-old trying to remember what they thought at 11.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, buddy.
Um, but then yeah, Harry's like trying to argue with the Hat about him not being a Lord material, and then he's like, "Wow, do your statistics take into account that I come from Enlightenment culture, or that I don't, or that I know about Hitler and Lenin, and that I know like about psychology of self-delusion?" And the Hat's just like, "No, of course they didn't fit this subclass that you just created that only fits yourself." And I just fucking love that line. It's such a good example of the Hat just cutting through Harry's bullshit and being like, "Stop
Yeah.
just saying shit that is correct but doesn't really prove anything." And it's just awesome because, like I said, no other character we've seen so far can just be like, "Harry, fuck you, be real." Um, and so yeah, so then he's argues with the Hat more, and eventually the Hat's just like, "Wow, you really believe that you are and can be the greatest warrior of the light side that the world has ever seen." Um, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Harry thinking himself that way?
I think he's also very short-sighted. I don't think there is a light side, and if there is, then like he's just being silly.
Okay,
Delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, delusions of grandeur.
right. Fiora?
More so under the same concept that I have for the dark side. It's that these are two very fantasy concepts that Harry has in his head that aren't really real.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I understand that. I do feel like it's worth pointing out that the Hat does kind of put a name to Harry's proclaimed dark side. It's like saying that he has one, as in the standard fantasy conception of a part of him that isn't really him, that just kind of takes over sometimes, isn't correct. But there is definitely like a mode of action and or thinking that Harry takes on when he's angry that he's like noticed and the Hat points out. And I think
Ah,
Harry just finds it convenient to call that his dark side. It's not like a standard fantasy conception of it, but like his idea of that set of behaviors for him is in fact real. Like that is something that he does. Um,
oh
okay,
yeah, an issue of emotional control.
yeah.
Ah,
Okay,
I see.
so keeping in mind how you guys like take Harry's belief, what do you think it means that the book calls out that Harry thinks of himself this way?
Um, it's all being like, uh, um, you don't have an INTJ stare. You are autistic.
What?
Okay, what does that mean?
What?
What do you think it means?
Ah,
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
I don't know.
Right. Okay.
for fuck's sake.
Okay. I
Sorry.
guess to clarify the question, I'm asking like at this point in the story, I don't know what your guys' idea of what the full story is supposed to be, or what it will be, or how like these characters that we've been introduced to are supposed to grow. So
Mhm.
when thinking about that kind of stuff, what do you think it means for Harry's like arc as a character and how we're supposed to conceive of Harry that the book specifically calls out that he has these delusions of grandeur, that he sees himself as potentially the greatest to ever do it.
Shit is nuanced.
What? You cut out.
Shit, shit is nu-
You are still
New,
cutting out.
new, new.
Don't disappear.
shit is shit is nuanced.
Shit is nuanced. Good take, Fiora.
To be honest, I think that's also going to be a thing of acceptance more than anything. Is that he definitely doesn't seem to like his sharp and cold side
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that he sometimes has to deal with. But in truth, that when he's in that side, he doesn't actually do anything that's intentionally mean.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, from what we've seen so far,
Like
he's
he'll play pranks in his light side, and he'll actually make some stuff that's honestly pretty traumatizing. But in his dark side, particularly in chapter 12, you'll see he's mostly about trying to get trying to get everyone around him to safety because he's in danger.
right. Okay,
Funnily enough, I actually relate to that mode before.
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Care to expand?
At least I did as a kid.
Right. That's fair. I would say maybe I didn't relate to it as a kid, but I definitely conceptualized myself as a person who thought better when he was upset. I can't really say whether I did or not, and I probably
Mm-hmm.
didn't. But
Yeah.
Aaron?
Um. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I'll say
I don't
this.
know. I feel like he does have some good reasons to be angry, and I mean, like, I just think it's more useful to just take that on its own rather than incorporate it into some dark side slash light side narrative.
Okay. And how does that play exactly into like what you think about Harry's arc or the story calling this part of Harry out?
I mean, I think he's just going to the story is just telling him to get over himself pretty much.
Right.
Like just chill out, just exist. Stop thinking of yourself as like the coolest specialist boy ever to exist. Because it isn't really helpful to anyone.
hmm Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. I think those are all really good takes. I was gonna say that for you, Aaron, I was specifically interested in your answer because I don't think I have a good grip on how you conceptualize Harry right now, but you've been I guess more willing than anyone else to like make fun of Harry when he gets to talk certain ways or thinks in certain ways and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like
Maybe.
to me right now, you seem as the sort of reader where like the fact that Harry is called out for something like this is like kind of addressed to readers who feel like Harry takes himself too seriously and like that the author isn't aware that Harry's like that or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 'Cause like I guess when I'm interacting with this story with you guys, I'm thinking of both how I understand you to understand media and how a lot of people who I've seen tangentially experience this piece of media have related to it. And it's why I bring up a lot of like a lot of instances where I'm like, yeah, I see people complain about this thing, and then here's an example of, that not being like a valid complaint because the story addresses this. And
Mm-hmm.
like, um, that's a big thing where a lot of people think that, the story is super pretentious because Harry is like super stuck up and always right about things and everything, and he thinks he's like the greatest person ever. And it's like I think those are valid things to criticize if they are things that not are not addressed in the story. And
Mm-hmm.
so like so far I guess I've been thinking that maybe you're leaning towards like that kind of interpretation of Harry as a character. And so I was just very curious to see how you responded to the fact that like the story seems to be aware of that. The story is telling Harry to deal with it because it's like you said it's not productive. And then yeah, we get into like Harry feeling like if he doesn't reach his full potential, whatever that means, he fails.
Whatever
And
that means.
yeah, what does that mean? Like, I don't. It's a very. It's one of the.
He mentions specifically what that means, to be clear.
Oh, does he? Did I
Like, he
forget?
mentions that that's about gifted kid failure, specifically.
Okay. I think I do remember that, but I think the hat kind of like has a rebuttal for him, being like, "That's not all that you're worried about here. Like, what is it really?" Yeah, no. There's the segment here is like, um, it starts here. It says, destruction is always easier than creation, easier to tear things apart, to disrupt, than to put them back together again. If I have the potential to accomplish good on a massive scale, I must also have the potential to accomplish still greater evil. But I won't do that. And the hat says, already you insist on risking it. Why are you so driven? What is the real reason you must not go to Hufflepuff and be happier there? What is your true fear? And Harry says, I must achieve my full potential. If I don't, I fail. And the hat says, what happens if you fail? Harry doesn't really have a real response, so the hat asks again, what happens if you fail? And Harry says, I don't know. And the hat's like, then it shouldn't be frightening. What happens if you fail? And then Harry says, I don't know, but I know that it's bad. Um, And then the hat says, you aren't letting yourself think it, but in some quiet corner of your mind, you know just exactly what you aren't thinking. You know that by far the simplest explanation for this unverbalizable fear of yours is just the fear of losing your fantasy of greatness, of disappointing the people who believe in you, of turning out to be pretty much ordinary, of flashing and fading like so many other child prodigies. And Harry's just kind of like, no, it's definitely something more. Um, like there's some disaster I have to stop. It's something more. And the hat's just like, you don't know that. Um, so yeah, it's like I don't know. It's a weird segment. I don't know what like to make of it. Even after like this fifth rereading, I don't know if we're supposed to take that Harry feels like there's something more like seriously. I don't remember if there's anything later in the story that hints at what that something more could be, or if the hat is just right and it's like, yep, that's actually the only reason, you know? But I'm wondering if you're able to put yourself in Harry's position. If the hat asks you, what happens if you fail? What do you think like you would be afraid of there, if anything? If you're not able to come up with anything, that's understandable. This is a weird question.
um, one second. Let me get some water. I'm out of water.
Okay, Rob.
Uh, I would live unfulfilling life.
Okay, Fiora.
Hmm. Wow, I'm not particularly good at focusing on this conversation, eh?
Mm,
Don't know what it is today.
hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, it's a really like weird question. I think like I think the weirdest thing about this interaction is that Harry does not have a extremely defined goal, I feel. Like we touched
Mm-hmm.
on this in the last segment where Harry says that, a lot of gifted kids they burn out because they don't have something to protect. They don't have like a thing to work on, a great problem to solve. And Harry feels like he has that in trying to solve magic. But
Gonna
personally,
optimize the wizarding world. I will be the god of the new world.
but personally, I don't feel like that's strong enough. I guess
Yeah,
we didn't touch
I
on this
agree.
last time, but yeah, I don't feel like it's strong enough because I think it's still too nebulous to be
Yeah.
a tangible goal, to really work as something to protect. It's not like, okay, I need to figure out all of this because I want specifically to like figure out immortality, or I want to cure cancer, or something specific where it's like those are smaller scale goals, but who's to say that he has to stop after he accomplishes them, you know? Like he
Hmm.
could do one and then do another and do another, but he's just trying to solve everything, and it doesn't feel like something that's solid enough to work as a strong motivator. And I think that is really important here because it's like Harry doesn't know what happens if he fails because he doesn't have something to fail at, really. It's more just
Hmm.
like the idea of not doing anything that he's afraid of. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what Harry really needs to do is be based and anti-capitalist and read theory, and then that can be the problem he focuses on.
Wow.
I
Like, it
mean,
really isn't difficult.
it wouldn't be hard with magic. Like he already figured out how he could potentially own the wizard economy.
But yeah, the funny thing is, in this regard of like the gifted kids with the goals or whatever, I actually like did. I probably like relate like very closely to this sort of thing realist at the end of the day because like I'm the one like trying to like make the computers work so I can do shit or whatever. Um like I got my computer science projects and like I guess like I have big like ambitions for or like I guess big dreams for them and like I guess failing would just mean living a pretty normal life and um I don't think I could do that when like all my peers are just like suffering. So like I feel like I have to help however I can and this is however I can. This is like whatever I'm doing here just theorizing how to make AI better or whatever
Mm-hmm.
is like I guess I relate to Harry on that one point. Even if our like actual like ideas and goals are very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really like that. I think that's really good. Because I mean, Harry does like touch a little bit here on like how solving magic could make the world a lot better. Because of all the stuff like he'd be able to do. Um, he just doesn't like focus on anything in particular. But you actually do kind of bring up a good point. Maybe to him, failing means that he doesn't help.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really good. That's really interesting. I never thought about it that way.
like I guess the this is gonna sound really dumb, but
Typical.
this like yeah, there's like this ethos of being a gifted kid that means that's like just being extremely grateful for your own existence and wanting to like repay that to the rest of the world and just like having a lot of fun being yourself, I guess, and wanting everyone else to have that much fun as well.
Huh.
I don't know, just
No,
come up with shit.
no, I think that's really interesting. I'm just like not quite sure if I understood it.
Like it's just fun to do things, honestly, and then
Wow.
you and then like the very first thing you see is like your parents like doing things and they're like, oh, I gotta work, this fucking sucks, and you're like, I thought doing things was fun, like why does it have to be bad?
Hmm.
So that's like a perceived wrong in the world to right or something.
Right, right. Yeah. No, I think it's very funny how the ethos right now is doing things is fun. But I mean like I agree, obviously. Like when I've talked here and there about what I think the ideal future for humanity is, it's like, people should be given the resources where they don't need to do shit to survive so they can do the shit they actually care about. Like
Hmm.
being able to follow your passions without worrying about how you're going to get your next meal or whether the roof is going to remain over your head or whether you'll
Hmm.
have drinkable water or whatever it may be. Like that is what I think we should strive for. And it's
Hmm.
why it's like it's very frustrating how many roadblocks there are to that, and it's like it's partial.
Roblox.
Okay, dude.
That's what I heard at first.
It's it also makes it frustrating how like AI development right now is going and the public response to that. Um, because it's like that is gonna be like the main way that we achieve what I'm talking about here, I think. Like not the main way, but a very big part of it, because there's still gonna be like labor and work that needs to be done to make sure there is food and stuff. Like we basically have like functionally infinite food, but someone needs to like farm it. Like that
Hmm.
is work that needs to be done.
They could always go with eco-terrorism, something eco-terrorism. Sorry, I mean eco-fascism. Eco-terrorism is based.
What? What's the what?
Unless it's in the name of ecofascism.
What? Why is ecofascism relevant?
Basically, the idea of eugenics on effectively people who are not needed / unproductive in order
Uh,
Ah, they're gonna
to
kill me.
save. save energy / save the planet.
Oh,
It's an incredibly stupid ideology for the record, but it's apparently something that people are subscribing to.
well, it has fascism in the name, so I didn't really need to know it was stupid, but yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. I guess it is. I guess it is understandable that way.
Yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, it's like that's still work that needs to be done, and the whole point of making machines is to eliminate all the shit that like people don't want to do, the menial labor. Like if there's someone out there whose passion truly is being a janitor, then good for them. They should be allowed to keep being a janitor in the, transhuman communist future. But like I very much doubt that those people exist, and the majority of them a majority of people are not that way, and it's like that's stuff that like machines should be used to do, you know funnily enough, this is actually related to how I feel about Minecraft, because that's why I like building farms, because it's like, why would I want to do this work? Like the point is to let me do whatever the fuck I want, so if I can build a farm that can get the materials for me, I'm going to do it. But yeah, that's how I feel about like AI's role in creating what my like ideal world is, and it's very frustrating seeing so many people just not understand it, so they're just very afraid of it. And it's like, look, them taking jobs is only a problem because you still need a job to survive, you know? Like once that's
Mhm.
not something you need to survive, then who gives a fuck if your McDonald's is ran completely by robots? Like I so see no reason to care.
Remember, a lot of labour that's around right now is completely unnecessary. So
Hmm.
I don't think that's going to be. I kind of understand their point of view in that case. I mean, I don't think it's AI's fault necessarily. This is going to happen regardless if you like it or not.
Yeah.
But it's sort of understand what they're coming at.
Yeah.
Because if we were actually working on making human life better, we wouldn't even have half the work hours we do right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. Um I
What you mean we can make the world better for less work? No way, dude.
I forgot how I got here. What was I talking about?
Um, uh, the burden of the gifted kid in the modern society.
Burden. Oh, yeah. So yeah, my main point is that like we should just make machines do shit that we don't need to, and then you're allowed to do it if you want, but you probably don't want to. Like, who wants to go coal mining? Dude, can you imagine this future and it's like you go coal mining as like a tourist thing or something? Like, holy shit, we're in, I don't know, where are coal mines located?
Massachusetts.
Yeah, holy shit, we're in Massachusetts. You want to go see the mines, and that's just a recreational thing you pay to do.
I just made that up, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nebraska, and I'm pretty sure there
Nebraska.
are none there. That was just the first state I thought of, But yeah, doing things is cool. We should let
Name
people do
things.
things. Shut up. Do you even? Never mind. I'm not gonna ask that question.
What?
Nothing.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, after they have the argument, or Harry and the Hat have the argument about what happens if Harry fails, um, what happens exactly? Harry just yells, "No, that's final." The Hat's like, "Wow, so you're really gonna risk this because the alternative is failure, and that means the loss of everything." And Harry's like, "Yep, that's the what I'm willing to do." And then so the Hat like talks to him a little more and eventually that figures out where to put him, and then like after they're done talking there's a bit of a gap, um but they the Hat's just like, what are you waiting for? And the Hat's like, or no, Harry's like, what are you waiting for? And the Hat's like, I was hoping for a moment of horrified self-realization. Actually, self-awareness does seem to enhance my sense of humor, which I thought was a really funny line. And then Harry's like, "Oh, do you mean my horrified realization that you're gonna be dead once you finish sorting me?" And then the Hat's just like, "Wow, you're too stupid for this to be funny. I'm just gonna have to say it outright." And then the Hat's like, "Oh, and you entirely forgot to demand the secrets of the lost magic that created me, and they were such wonderful, important secrets too." So what do you guys think the joke, the realization that the Hat was waiting for is?
Um, Harry realizing that Hat's gonna put him into Slytherin as a bit.
No, that's very close. It's basically I think the way that you're supposed to read that is that they talked about the possibility of every house except Slytherin.
Yeah.
So Harry was supposed to realize that because they didn't talk about it and Harry didn't explicitly say no, he's going to go to Slytherin. So that's why when he
Yeah.
says it, the Harry's like it says Harry sat there frozen, his life in ruins, feeling the absolute fool and wishing wretchedly that he had made any other choices for any other reasons but the ones he had, that he had done something, anything differently before it had been too late to turn back. So yeah, I think we're supposed to be just like, yeah, he just didn't fucking realize.
Yeah.
And that's why the hat plays the joke on him. He's like, "You fucking idiot, you deserve this." And then yeah, that's the end of the sorting. That's the end of the hat. How did you guys what did you guys think about this chapter? Like now that we're done with it, what do you think about how specifically like what do you think we're supposed to think about Harry now? Now that
Harry
he's
Potter. Harry Potter and the Methods of Drooling.
okay.
Harry Potter and the voices.
So true. All right, I just realized that was a badly formed question, so I'm gonna move on. So we get chapter 11. It's just a bunch of like, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce this word. Omake, omake. I don't know, but they're just like a bunch of asides that he wrote. They're basically like deleted scenes. There's not a lot of substance here. What do you guys think of them though?
Mm, hold on, I am not in the right place.
Me when I'm in Canada. But yeah, so there's a few of them. There's one where Harry like goes and visits Dumbledore and he's like, I feel this sharp pain in my scar. I figured out that it's probably coming from Quirrell. And based on how I got this scar, we can assume that it's Voldemort. And then I guess we're supposed to think that Dumbledore starts panicking because he's like, Harry's like, wait, don't look so horrified. This is actually a priceless opportunity. And then it ends. Um, and then there's the original version of Chapter 9, which apparently has a Ghostbusters parody in it, which I'm personally really glad
Okay.
which I'm personally really glad didn't make it into the story itself, because that would have made it way longer, and it's like it's so tonally dissonant from the rest of chapter 9, I think. So I'm really glad
Right.
it's not there. And then the third Omake files are just like a collection of different scenarios of what happens with the hat. I don't remember what all of them are. Let me skim them real quick. So yeah, the first one is the hat just answers all of Harry's questions with like yeses and nos. So yeah, Harry asks all the same questions, and the hat's like, no, yes, no, no, yes, and no. Next time, don't ask double questions. No, and then he just says Ravenclaw, and then that's the end of the sorting. And then the second one is the hat being like, I'm allergic to your hair shampoo. And so he says achoo, and then a whole new house is created specifically for Harry. Uh,
Right.
and then the the third one is Harry asks all the questions, and there's a brief pause, and Harry's like, do I need to repeat them? And the sorting hat just screams before setting itself on fire. Oh wait,
Right.
no, it doesn't set itself on fire. It pushes itself along with its brim and made it halfway to the head table before it exploded. So, yeah, then the next one is that the hat immediately says Slytherin, and then Fred silences the hat, changes his voice with change my voicio, which is a very good spell design. Um, and then
Right.
says just kidding Gryffindor, and then the next one is that the hat says, ordinarily, I would refer such questions to the headmaster, who could ask me in turn if he wished. But some of the information you've asked for is not only beyond your own user level, but beyond the headmaster's. And Harry says, how can I raise my user level? And the hat's like, I can't answer that at your user level. And Harry's like, what can you do at my user level? And so he gets put into House Root, which is just a funny computer joke. I like that. Um, and
Hmm.
then the next one is a joke about Harry impregnating Draco again because he says, I've had to tell students before that they were mothers, but this is the first time I've had to tell someone they were a father. And Harry's like, what? And that's like, Draco is carrying your baby. And then he says, "What?" And then the hat's like, "Yeah, Draco is secretly 13 and actually a girl, and she obliviated you after you had sex." And then he sends Harry to Ravenclaw, and apparently he was just trolling Harry the whole time with that. And then there are like a few others. There's actually way more here than I remember. Uh,
Elf, huh? Harry remembered Draco mentioning a house elf, but what was that exactly? Judging by the appalled looks dawning on the face around her, it wasn't anything good.
and then
Pancakes!
pancakes. This motherfucker got sent to IHOP.
Representatives!
Oh man, I would now want to get sent there.
The House of Representatives.
My favorite one is this next one. It says, "Oh dear, this has never happened before. What? I've never sorted someone who is a reincarnation of Godric Gryffindor and Salazar Slytherin and Naruto." I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Atreides!
I didn't get that one. What is that referencing?
It's the house from Dune.
Oh. Okay. Awesome. And then the last one is, oh, actually, I'm torn. This one might be my favorite. It's either this one or the Naruto one, where it's like a rendition of all of Minerva's or McGonagall's monologue before Harry gets sorted, and then the hat sorts him into the headmaster position, and I just fucking love the idea that the hat can do that. Can you imagine how the story would go from there? I don't even know what would happen next. It's like, okay, Harry instantly became headmaster of Hogwarts. What does he do now?
He, he
It's a
wins.
slice of life political drama.
So fucking real.
Incredible.
So real.
But yeah, so those are all of them. I hope you guys found those fun. I thought they were a neat little break to have in this chunk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then last chapter of this segment is chapter 12. Um, I don't remember what happens in this one. Just like the rest of the sorting happens. I guess we'll just go through it. So the first note I have is that we're pretty explicitly told that Harry still speaks Parcel Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where that happens, but yeah, that does happen. And then yeah, everyone's like questioning him about why he was under the hat for so long, and no one believes him when he says stuff. And oh yeah, then he talks about like the hearing a message from the hat after he took it
Voices.
off the voices. And it says, "Salutations from Slytherin to Slytherin. If you would seek my secrets, speak to my snake." I'm pretty sure.
Birch learned to talk to the cock.
Right.
Right, right. So yeah, that's the story just being like, yeah, this motherfucker still speaks snake.
Mm-hmm.
Which I want to bring your attention to, mainly because when Harry was under the hat, we get confirmation that there is only one soul under that, or one mind under the hat. Because Harry's like, "Oh, is there part of the Dark Lord in my scar?" And the hat's just like, "If there is, I can't tell." And in canon, the piece of Voldemort's soul in his scar is why Harry can speak Parcel Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting that he's able to still do so here, apparently. And Harry's just like, "Wow, I'm guessing that wasn't supposed to happen." And it's like, yeah, that is correct. That is not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Duolingo.
Duolingo for snakes, you're just hissing at your phone, and it's like, that wasn't the right inflection. You didn't hit like a
Yeah.
C sharp with your S sound, so you said a
Yeah.
slur instead of the word you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I think we get Dumbledore about to like give his greeting words where he just says nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And right before then, Harry wants to drink Comet tea, and he does drink Comet tea. And then when Dumbledore says some fuck shit, Harry's like, "It was hopeless. He was corrupt to the core. Hail the Dark Lord, Harry. You couldn't fight fate." And I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but the reason he says that is because at that very moment, he still believes that Comet tea manipulates reality, and that he just
Mm-hmm.
pointlessly robbed a very powerful wizard of free will for comedic purposes.
Yeah.
So that's what he's thinking right now when when he says that. Um, but yeah, and then he just says, "Oh, well, that was a short little journey to godhood. Even I expected this to take longer than my first day of school." And that was one of the lines that was why I was like surprised Fiora was so on board with Harry's thinking about how the tea worked. Because to me,
Mhm.
I read that line and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, so that's like, there's no way that's true, right? Because then the story would be over, right?" So yeah, and then
Note
just
to self: the 75th percentile of Hogwarts students, aka Ravenclaw House, is not the world's most exclusive educational facility for gifted children.
right, and if I remember right, he says that
So
because
stupid.
everyone is like, yeah, everyone knows that Dumbledore is crazy, and
Mhm.
he's like, wow, so if everyone knows it, it's not much of a secret or something like that. And then like the guy next to him gets all thoughtful, and everyone else is just like, yeah, exactly, and he's just like, wow, these people are,
Dumbasses.
yeah. um, and then he goes through thinking about what he should do about the voices.
The
Uh,
voices.
he just makes a long list of shit he should do. And then he decides to apologize to Neville, which is good. Like,
Hmm.
the hat told him he was full of shit, and he's like, yeah, you're right. I will apologize to the kid.
I'm sorry, Neville. The voices told me to.
And then, yeah, then, like, yeah, more commentate shit. He wants to drink it and doesn't. And then Dumbledore's like making announcements, and he's like, Quidditch trials will be held in the second week of term. Anyone interested in playing for their house teams should contact Madam Hooch. Anyone interested in reformulating the entire game of Quidditch should contact Harry Potter. And I think that's really funny. I don't. I don't know why Dumbledore knows that. I don't know if we're told why he knows that about Harry. But I think the silliest part is that Harry doesn't even want to like reformulate the whole game. He wants to make very, very simple changes. He's just like, okay,
Anyone
get.
interested in signing up for Quidditch should contact Madam Hooch. Anyone interested in our fastest and hardest boner should contact the UPS.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I was gonna say, yeah, Harry's changes are very simple. He's just like, get rid of the shiny toy and get a clock. Make the game make sense. I don't think it's fair to say that he wants to reformulate the entire game. You guys think that's
I mean,
fair?
it is kind of a reformulation of the entire game because like it changes the way the optimal strategy.
I guess I don't know. It's like I guess when I imagine a reformulation of the entire game, I imagine a lot more drastic changes, like and just many changes compared to like the singular one that he wants to do. It's like it's like in Gen 7, I wouldn't say banning Pedon was a reformulation of the entire game just because of how many teams changed and what the optimal strats were changed because there was no more broken shit allowed, you know? Does that make sense? Is that a good analogy?
Kind of changed. I don't know.
It's not a reformulation of the entire game. A reformulation of the entire game is Gen 8 happening.
That's fair. I'll give you that one.
But yeah, then Harry just assumes that Dumbledore can read minds. And but he's like, I didn't look him in the eyes. And then he thinks that maybe Ron told him, and I'm like, I think that's a weird assumption. Why would Ron be on speaking terms with the headmaster on the first day of school?
Yeah.
Um and then Dumbledore says another thing that I think surprises Harry a lot. He says, additionally, I must tell you that this year the third floor corridor on the right hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. It is guarded by an elaborate series of dangerous and potentially lethal traps, and you cannot possibly get past all of them, especially if you are only in your first year. And Harry's just, it says Harry was numb at this point, and I thought that was fucking hilarious. But then nothing else really happens except that we get introduced to Professor Quirrell. Robert, how much do you remember of the first book?
No, none.
All right. Quirrell in the first book is a very important character because he was being possessed by Voldemort in the first
He's a
book.
yeah. You run into him before fighting um that one uh uh Hollow Knight character in the lake.
Shut up. Oh my god. I was wondering where you were going with that, and I just didn't remember until you said Hollow Knight. Anyway, so yeah, in canon, Quirrell is still the defense teacher, and he is possessed by Voldemort in canon, but one key feature of him that is mentioned here that is different from canon is that it says that Harry caught a glimpse of the back of his head, and it looked like Professor Quirrell might already be going through balding despite his seeming youth. In canon, we only get to see Quirrell's back of his head at the end of the story because that's where Voldemort is, and he's wearing like a turban the rest of
Yeah.
the story. So that's some important info. But then he gives a speech about like how he intends to teach defense. He calls it battle magic, I believe, and he goes
Hmm.
on to say how like all the greatest wizards of their time have like taught defense before, and he name drops like Slytherin, and apparently Baba Yaga is someone we're supposed to just accept existed in this world like as a real
Hmm.
person, which is kind of funny. Um, and then, yeah, he just gives a speech about that, and he's like, "This is going to be the best defense class you're ever going to have. I'm going to have some extracurriculars and shit. We have a lot of lost ground to make up for." Um, and then he crumples back up in his chair and is silent for the rest of the time. So really, that's the main thing that happens in this chapter. So what do you guys think about Quirrell? What's his deal?
He's just quarreling around.
Okay, anything more
Yeah.
than that?
Quarreled to meet you.
You are awful. I am trying to have a discussion.
Um, Hogwarts anti-imperialists. When I tell them Hogwarts spends billions annually on defense and not a single cent on attack.
Right.
What? What? Okay. But no, seriously, what do you think about Quirrell?
I don't know. He's just chilling.
He's just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna rephrase this. Robert, as someone who has no context of canon, what do you think about Quirrell?
Um,
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
Man.
That's kind of what I think about him.
All right. Erin, as someone who does have context of canon and hopefully remembers the first book slash movie, what do you think about Quirrell?
um. Uh. I hate school and I hate teachers.
All right. Fiora?
I'd be okay if she taught me.
Okay.
She's the only teacher I'm okay with.
I don't we don't need to know about fetishes you may or may not have.
Shut the fuck up.
What?
I didn't even mean it like that.
I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure being like I'd be doing great if my girlfriend taught me. Yeah, that's not related at all.
What is that even supposed to...
You know what it's supposed to mean. Don't play this game with me.
Is your brain rotted?
No, my brain is quite healthy. Okay, so like I said, in canon, Quirrell has the turban. Here he does not. Do you think he's Voldemort?
I think he's gay.
Okay.
So true.
Why do I do this? Why do I do this?
This is why I'm in this pod. So you say things to make you say things like that.
You need to start watching more video essays so you're better at talking about media and storytelling. That's my take for today. You know how I got this way?
I will not enter the dude bro pod. I will not eat the dude bro video essay bugs.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What?
I don't know what any of the words you just said mean.
I will leave behind the dude bro vampire castle.
What is that?
The dude bro industrial complex.
What are you referring to?
Video essays.
How is that the dude bro industrial context? Or what the fuck did I just say? Industrial complex. That's what I meant to say.
Uh, uh, um, it's like
Most of the essays
they interpret media in their way, and I say shit like Quirrell is gay, and I think I'm getting further than they ever were when they talk about the deep hidden themes in Barbie, the movie, and how they relate to the Oppenheimer movie. and that.
Right. This is good stuff. You're really showing how your media interpretation is better than them.
I don't know. I mean,
It's so true.
I'm just fucking around.
I'm aware. Damn, I have two things specifically that I want to talk about for Garden of Words tomorrow, and I'm gonna say them, and then Erin's just gonna be like, I think Yukino's gay. And I'm gonna be like, okay, well, I was bringing thoughts. My bad.
I think Yukino could start testosterone.
Uh, okay. That I was gonna ask why, but wrong podcast.
Okay.
Right. Anyway, um, so yeah, now that we've wrapped up this chunk, how did you guys feel about it?
It was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway. This is definitely a much more comedic uh segment than the first six chapters were. Like serious that we got was like
Okay.
the hat
Sorry, I think I
and
cut out.
no, I cut out.
What the
Oh, okay.
fuck?
You weren't even talking. But yeah, the most serious we get is just the hat cutting Harry down, and even that is still like played mostly for laughs because the hat is just a funny character. So yeah, what do you think about Hermione specifically?
Um, woman,
Okay,
Wow.
you know that's a child, right?
child.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I guess we can just start wrapping up. The next segment will be chapters 12 through, or no, chapters 13 to 16. I would have done chapters 13 to 17, but chapter 17 in particular is fucking massive. That would have made the chunk 35,000 words, and Robert said that 30,000 words was pretty long for this segment, so instead
Yeah.
we're doing a 21,000 word chunk. That will be, like I said, 13 to 16. Um, I don't remember exactly what happens. We do cover like Harry's first day at Hogwarts. I think it's the first couple of days. I
Hmm.
don't remember what the time span is, but um, chapter 13 is very whimsical. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the your favorite chapter from this segment. But in terms of like important story beats, I don't think that much happens. It's like we just get to see Harry at
Fucking
Hogwarts for a
around.
little bit. Yeah, he's fucking around. He's being a student.
Okay, look at the chapter names right now, and there's like 13 chapters on the Stanford Prison Experiment. When does the tournament arc happen? I'm fucking bored.
Dang, I forgot the Stanford prison experiment part is 13 chapters. Yeah, there's no tournament arc. I don't know why you think there is.
Do you think Harry Potter would know what baseball is and recognize the absurdist value of replying to someone with a baseball image?
No,
I
I
think he
don't.
would.
I don't think he would.
I think he would.
Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, there's no tournament arc. I don't know why. I don't know who gave you the idea that there was, or what gave you the idea that there was.
Um, that's nice, honey. I'm going to enjoy the tournament arc.
There isn't one.
No, there is one.
Where?
Um,
I saw it in a dream.
it was
Okay.
revealed to me in a dream.
Right, right, right.
Okay. Working in groups, part 1. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
No, but okay. There isn't a tournament. Like
Of course,
that just doesn't that just doesn't happen.
yeah. It's the Grand Wizard tournament.
I don't think that means I don't think that means what you what you're hoping it does.
I'm not going to lie. I do not know why I said that.
You're spreading misinformation on the internet.
Yeah, Fiora told
Why
me.
are you doing that?
Fiora told me there is actually a tournament arc.
There just isn't though.
I trust her word more than I trust yours.
She didn't finish the book.
She got to the tournament arc though.
There isn't a tournament arc.
Big ass fight.
This just doesn't happen.
Baseball.
I literally
There,
happened a quarter of the way in. What the hell do you
there
mean?
there isn't a tournament.
Do they play baseball?
No,
Do they play Quidditch?
Harry doesn't.
Is there some like guy that they made like a character that plays Quidditch and he's like his name is like Sportman
Harry.
Sportington?
Ha- Harry doesn't go. Harry doesn't go to a Quidditch game until the end of the book, if I remember right.
That's the tournament arc, right?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't play Quidditch.
No,
He made fun of
he
Quidditch.
doesn't participate in it. He just
Okay, there's still not a Quidditch tournament arc. Like that. This doesn't happen.
Oh, it must be some other game then. I see.
No, there's no tournament arc. I have no reason to lie about this to you.
That I thought the entire point of the book was that you should be more Machiavellian because you can get people to do what you want them to do when you're evil.
No. The whole
Well,
point
that's
is
what I
that
got from the book.
Yeah.
you haven't finished the book. There's no tournament arc. Fiora is just wrong. Okay.
There's no Tooth Fairy, there's no Easter Bunny, there is no Queen of England, and there is no HPMOR tournament arc. There is no word busting.
Emilio's
Shut
wrong,
up.
by the way.
I'm literally not. There isn't a tournament arc. There is a series of like events that happen that are like battles or whatever, but they're not tournaments. It's not a tournament
That's a
arc.
tournament arc, I'm
going to
sorry.
That's
torment
not
you
a tournament
anyway.
arc. That's not a tournament arc.
I'm going to
Tournament
torment
arc
you
is-
anyway.
A tournament arc is that shit that happened in Naruto.
I haven't seen Naruto.
Well, HPMOR mentions Naruto, so it must happen.
Yeah.
It mentioned it in what was essentially a cutaway gag, a non-canon cutaway.
I didn't say it was non-canon.
Yes, it did.
Nuh-uh.
I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
Why are we still recording?
I didn't want to hear it stop recording. It sounded funny. That's an extra 2 hours of footage. Oh yeah, did you decide to edit the Lisa segment?
I haven't decided yet.
Can you do that today?
Okay, I
As
can
in
do that.
decide today?
I can decide today.
Okay, good.
Also, I'm experiencing a real life tournament arc OMPL week 6. So
I think-
give me your energy.
I think the fact that you called it that means that I want you to lose.
Awesome. I get to disappoint you then.
I guess that's one way of looking at it, yeah. Oh yeah, you know what else we need you to do, Erin?
Yeah.
Give us the next Lisa segment.
No, I did give you the next. Wait. I
Just-
literally.
When? I missed that then.
Yeah, hold on. Let me find it.
I haven't started Crosscode. Has anyone started Crosscode?
No.
like the third stomach, this segment.
Yeah. No, I mean, have you played the? Yes, of course. I mean the third segment.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, me neither.
That we can make it be like an OVA.
What does that? What?
I don't know what that stands for.
What are you even talking about? I'm so confused. I just got back.
What?
What?
Sorry, it was a conversation I made up.
Right. My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt. Damn, wait, we were supposed to do an outro for this, aren't we? Yeah, next segment for HPMOR is chapters 13 through 16.
Harry
Potter.
Harry Potter.
Erin won't be on that episode. I will have shot her in cold blood. She will be replaced by my good friend Layson.
That's against YouTube TOS.
Are you sure? Did you read it?
No.
No, but I imagine you'll get struck.
That doesn't. I didn't. I don't want to hear it. You didn't read it. I don't want to hear it.
In my new
I'll just-
in my new video game, I'll say the first line of text will be "I'm going to kill you," and then people will try to upload a let's play onto YouTube and they'll die.
It won't even be like a text line. It will just be very loud audio.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Anyway, I'm very behind on uploading episodes, so this probably isn't gonna come out for like 2 weeks. We're recording
I
it
was
on the
behind
1st
your
of
mom
June.
last night.
Okay, you don't even like cis women. What are you talking about?
Some of them go hard.
Who?
Sure.
Not your mom.